Greetings, everyone, and good morning, good evening, good night, depending on where you are on this lovely Friday. And it is indeed a lovely Friday because today we are joined by a guest that I have wanted to have on the show for some time, namely Edward from Small Screen. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Andre?
I'm good, thank you. And to anyone that's wondering, Tom will be joining us very soon as his computer cooperates sufficiently that he's able to log on and join us. So he'll be here momentarily. And when he joins us, we have a great show for you today. We'll be talking some Joker. We'll be talking some future of DC on film. We'll be talking some future of Marvel and Sony on film, because we also had a casting announcement from Sony, namely that they're going for, dare I say it, sloppy seconds, in recasting the MCU Quicksilver for their Kraven. What does that mean for future connectivity between Marvel and Sony? And Edward Lauder, you are, of course, the perfect guest to talk about this with, because you are an entertainment journalist.
Yes.
Astute viewers will, of course, recognize you from our previous DC scoops. Some of which are our scoops, but many of them are actually lifted from your reporting. So tell us a little bit about yourself and Small Screen before we start out.
Yeah, so hi guys, I'm Edward. I'm the editor of Small Screen. Before starting Small Screen, I was working as an entertainment journalist in France, actually, for a website called MEitM, which is still up in France, but no longer in the English language. And then I moved to London and I worked a bit for Empire magazine, for Digital Spy, but really my main job was an entertainment reporter for the Daily Express. Don't think any less of me about that, but it's just difficult
we all
to get
got to start somewhere.
Exactly. And I worked there for quite some time and was freelancing for other people as well. I've worked for the Mirror, and then eventually, once COVID hit, I think many people might have had this might have happened to. A lot of people were made redundant, especially at the Express. So what I decided to do was kind of do what I was doing there on my own. So I started Small Screen. I'd actually started a couple of years before, and it's just Small Screen is a labor of love. It's something that I started on my own, and it started doing relatively well. And then it was me, and then I got a lot of other people writing for me as well. So it's really an outlet where it's a news outlet, really, but we also have like features on there. So if anyone wants to write, they can, and I do pay all my writers as well. And make sure that I do that, because I've worked for some outlets that didn't pay me. I won't go and mention them now, but I've worked for many people over the years. Screen Rant as well was one of them, and did some stuff with We Got This Covered as well, but left them pretty sharpish. But it's just, that's what Small Screen is. It's a place where, for people that love to talk about pop culture, where they can go and pitch to me ideas about stuff in the pop culture world, and then hopefully we can get that up there. And then there's some new stuff as well. And I've been lucky enough working in the entertainment industry for quite some time, where I've developed some contacts that I've been just really, really lucky to have. So with them, I've been able to get out some relatively decent scoops, I think, some things that are quite interesting. And then so that's really what's happened. That's how it's gone. And then I've got actually, I should mention James, my producer. If you go and check us out on YouTube, there are some videos over there that he helped. He edited, and I am in, and he also wrote as well, a lot of them. So he's really the brains behind that operation. So if you want to know anything more about the Snyderverse, there is a video called The History of the Snyderverse, which we did, which we're quite proud of. So yeah, and that's it. That's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, and that video is actually linked to in the description of this video.
Oh, brilliant.
So anyone wanting to check it out, there you'll find Edward on Twitter, you'll find the link to Small Screen, you'll find their YouTube channel, and you'll find the Snyder Cut video. So we've put everything
brilliant.
to make it easy there. And again, Yeah, I fully understand where you come from with small screen. Actually, it sounds very similar to my own story with Midnight's Edge also. So it's great to see someone with a similar background and backstory with that. And also, I have to say, I'm really impressed with, in particular, with your DC coverage, because there you've gotten some amazing, amazing scoops. That is, the news uncovered are, of course, horrendous, because it only goes to reveal just a complete chaos that is behind the scenes there, which is later, after you have reported this, is then tacitly confirmed by the trades, when you have like the likes of Anne Sarnoff going out and confirming, in not so many words, everything that you reported to have been true, horribly, horribly true. But the reporting is excellent, although the news are very bad very often. But again, that's what true journalism is about. It's about uncovering the things that could be much, much better. So massive kudos for that. And we'll be talking a little bit about that. And we also have a nice crew joining us today. We have Sander Hammerslag, member of the channels. Mr. Tickletrunk is here. Darius Münchhausen is here. We have Rob Alt is here. And of course, is here. And Johnny Sins, he has all the hashtags prepared. Hashtag restore the Snyderverse, hashtag suck it Warner Brothers, hashtag boycott Warner Brothers, hashtag make the Batfleck movie, hashtag Henry Cavill Superman, and everything else. So yeah, we have everything here. We have Max joining us today, and we have Hurin the Steadfast, who is wondering, where is Tom? Well, I can tell you, Tom, he will hopefully be joining us any moment. I just got a DM from him. He is struggling with his computer at the moment, so there is no more drama to it than that. I guess there was a Windows update. And Windows updates are never, ever good news, especially if the computer is in need of replacement. So hopefully Tom will be here very soon. And we got a couple of super chat. Mags says, "Hail Midnight's Edge panel, mods and chat. Happy Friday. Can't wait to listen to today's topics." I think it's going to be a really fun time today, especially when we have another legit entertainment journalist here. And and Mike Beats Dix points out, Andre needs a camera, Tom needs a new computer. What kind of chicken shit outfit is this? Yeah, well, that is how we roll. But at least we have Edward with camera and working computer and everything. So someone is pro.
Yeah.
And Marilyn's Id says, "I think a Joker sequel could work, but you have to include Batman at some point. At the very least, I'll enjoy watching Twitter meltdowns." Hold that Batman thought, because we are going to get back to that. Then we also have Darius Münchhausen, who sent us a super sticker, so thanks for that. That's a very cool Robocop icon, by the way, with a nice hat. Let's see. We also have HyperGyver2, who says for $5, "Morning, gents. I saw a report that says that China has sold their controlling interest in AMC. Is this a sign that China is leaving Hollywood?" That's actually very interesting. That we could, of course, have an hour-long discussion on that, but we're not gonna have that. But since we have it on screen, Edward, did you hear about it?
So this is Wanda, isn't it? They gave up their stakes in AMC.
Yes, it's a CCP by way of Wanda that would have been given up their stake.
So I was just looking up because to get the numbers. So it's a 10% stake in AMC. So it wasn't that massive. Honestly, I mean, Yeah, it could mean that. It could mean that China's looking kind of more away from Hollywood and more to be more kind of do internal stuff. Because I don't know. Actually, I've been doing a lot of reporting on what's been going on in China, like especially with the Snyder Cut, vis-a-vis the Snyder Cut, and how well that's actually been doing over there.
Yeah, it's done amazing, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been doing ridiculously well on all of their platform, on all of their video streaming platforms, because it hasn't been released in theaters in China. But the interesting thing was the fact that Godzilla vs. Kong, which was released in China in cinemas, actually was outperformed by a really small Chinese movie. And it, very small budget. I can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head, but it wasn't a big budget Chinese film, which there actually are many of nowadays. They do a lot of them, and this, I think, was indicative of how Chinese audiences view Hollywood cinema. There are specific things that they are really into. The Snyder Cut's one of them. Avatar is another thing that they just absolutely adore out in China. Star Wars did okay in China, but not amazingly well. It could have done better. But the Snyder Cut is something that's really, really big over there. But I think what China is going to start doing is they're going to basically just invest in their own Hollywood, really. And this might be an indication of that happening. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future with Chinese cinema and where that goes.
I think that that they're going to change their strategy a little bit when it comes to Hollywood. I don't think that they're going to pull out completely, but I think they'll change their focus. I think it's mostly a matter of them perhaps seeing that people are going to go back to theaters, but I don't think that the theatrical distribution model is going to go back to what it was. So I think it's simply a matter of them taking resources out from there and maybe pushing more into other venues, like, for instance, building their own film production, or more on the funding side, having soft power and soft influence that way. I think that is as likely. Speaking of something else likely, is that Tom just might be ready to join us. Let's give it one try. Tom, or my double. Can you hear me?
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, so we hear you just fine. Oh, there we go.
It's taken over a half hour just for this thing to boot up, and it's still running slower than molasses down a hill in January. But nice to meet you, Edward. Sorry.
Nice to meet you. Oh, he's muted.
Yeah, everything's still running pretty slow here, so.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's...
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt the conversation. Continue, gentlemen.
Yeah, no, that's quite all right. And with that, I'm just going to see if there's something we can do about, now that I see it, is there something we can do about the... there we go. There we go. The traditional Midnight's Edge background, also known as the...
we forgot to change from Bond yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the operation that we roll certainly in live shows. And then let's see if there's some other super chats I can bring up on screen before we get into the main topics of today. And there is Gran Wasu 42 says for 20 euros. Thank you so much. Small donation for your equipment fund. Hashtag keep the lights on. Yes, indeed. Thank you. We really appreciate that. And I do believe there probably will be going for a new computer for Tom very soon here. So yeah, thanks so much. Really appreciate that. And that's what I can bring up.
Honestly, I can't really bitch too much. I mean, this computer has been through hell. I mean, it's a couple years old now. Yeah, so it deserves to be retired and let new forces to come in instead. But going back to some of the classic super chats, Alex Acerra started us off saying, no sequel, but new management. What changes? So we obviously have DC questions, so we'll get into those. And Durao on for €5. He wants me to practice my French skills because he says, bonsoir, monsieur. Salut, chat et renches. Vive la Midnight's Edge. Well, merci beaucoup. Edward, how was my French?
It was good. I think it's vive. not Viva.
Viva.
That's the end.
Yeah.
Viva is Spanish.
Yeah, I know. I'm better
didn't-
in Spanish
Yeah.
than I am in French. So sorry about that, and I know that's a
That's
big deal
fine.
for the French. But yeah, and
Vive la
Mr.
Révolution. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. And Mr. Tickle Trunk sent us a cute little doggy super sticker and says, "Hello, gents. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday." And Darius Milhausen sent us a popcorn super sticker. And Stephen Otten says for $5, "Hail Andre, Edward, Wrenches, and Midnighters. Rest in peace, Shane Bryant, Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter, Ansax, and Farscape." Oh, well, if I didn't know that we had lost him today, but that is a shame. And yeah, may Shane Bryant rest in peace. And Hurin the Steadfast says for $6 Canadian, 66. I see what you did there. "Joker does not need a sequel." And with that, we are mostly caught. Oh, actually, we are almost fully caught up, but only almost. 6 also says for Tom's new computer, since he hasn't learned to stop downloading porn viruses. And he also says,
I wish that was the
problem. So thank you so much.
Then I could be able to figure it out. I would just get a separate computer for the porn, of course.
Yeah, well, again, these are business secrets. So, yeah, but moving on. Let us get into the first main topic of today. Now, I have a very good article on it that I'm about to share with you all right here.
Do we need article sharing music for Andre?
No, I think we are good. Here we have an article from an excellent publication titled Small Screen, and from a great journalist called Edward Lauder. I think that's a familiar person, isn't it, Edward? And here then it says, reported on the 28th of May, that would be today, Joker 2 script to be written by Todd Phillips. And then it says, it's being reported that Todd Phillips is currently working on the script for the Joker sequel, aka a Joker 2, which is interesting news. This report comes to us via The Hollywood Reporter. And then we move down a little bit, and here we get the details. Whether Warner Pictures ends up going for it is another story, because this is not an official announcement. This is something that was gleaned from The Hollywood Reporter in another story, so it's not something that is announced. What they said is that Todd Phillips struck a deal to co-write the next Joker installment. So that's to co-write, and as you point out, Edward, it'll be interesting to see who Todd Phillips is writing the Joker 2 script with. He wrote the first movie with Scott Silver, who also wrote the scripts of The Finest Hours, The Fighter, and 8 Mile. And really, that is what we have to go on so far. But nonetheless, we have The Hollywood Reporter that tacitly confirms that Joker 2 is in development. And if you've been watching Midnight's Edge, this should come as no surprise, because we have actually been reporting on how much the powers that be at Warner Media have wanted to make a Joker sequel ever since the first one was a certified hit. And while both Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix were both like, "No, this is a standalone movie," when pushed on the matter, they were both quite open to doing it if conditions were right. So none of them ever shut it down completely. Even Joaquin Phoenix was more like, if there's going to be another Joker movie, I'll be damned if it's not me. He didn't use those exact words, but that was his exact intention nonetheless. So with that, Edward, what do you make of these news?
I think it's really good news because, I mean, Joker, like the first Joker film is still the biggest DC Comics Warner Brothers hit. If you're going to look at how much money they spent on it, I think it was a budget of 55 million, not even that they had on that original film, and then it ended up making over $1 billion. So money-wise, it makes so much sense to go and say, let's do this. The other thing is, this is an Oscar-winning movie. This is this is Oscar material. The first film was. Having Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix work together again would be incredible. Now, I saw that someone commented before that they'd like to see the Batman in this. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen, because in the first film we actually did see Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne was a kid. So I don't know if that's really the route they want to go down. I honestly, I'm not sure. Again, also, where can this movie go? Like the end of Joker was pretty. I suppose it was pretty ambiguous. So I suppose we'll get to see more of Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, which is something that I'd really like to see. So I'm positive on it. I'm pretty positive on this film.
Yeah, I agree. And there's one thing that I think is worth pointing out, though, in terms of the Batman. Mm-hmm. And this is also something that I do not have it in front of me right now. I think this was also in the Hollywood Reporter a few weeks back, where they said in the exact same backdoor way, hidden in another story. And this is something that we had heard from Mikey Sutton that they were trying to do, that they were trying to convince Todd Phillips to approve of. And I think he must have done, because in a previous scoop on a different matter, the Hollywood Reporter, I believe it was either them or Deadline Hollywood. I'll have to check that out. But there it said that the Joker movie retroactively has been placed in the same continuity as Matt Reeves' Batman.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I mean, given let's see. First off, I suppose we'll have to see the Batman film first, because it's. I think they did say it's set in the present day. I think that was confirmed. So, and this is a younger version of Batman. It's like a kind of year two version.
That would kind of work, because
he would be right age roughly.
It was set in 1981 is when the Joker movie was.
The Joker was
because Edward Sparkle Pants is close to my age, and
probably
all of our ages. But I'm assuming Edward's a bit younger than Andre and I. So.
Yeah, mayhaps, but the more important is actually the age of Robert Pattinson's Batman, and that would line up not perfectly, but in the ballpark.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, both ages are pretty similar.
Yeah. It's like movie magic. They can do that with movie magic.
With movie magic, all they really need, because again, this is not unprecedented. If you look at the Constantine TV series with Matt Ryan, that was originally its own thing, but later it was retroactively placed into the Arrow continuity. When after the series was cancelled and they started having him show up in the Arrow universe. And we had heard from Mikey Sutton that they were trying to work with both Todd Phillips and with Matt Reeves, both of whom wanted to make their own standalone things, if there was some way that they would allow to be in the same continuity. Now, if that means any kind of direct references or anything like that, I don't know, or it's just something that they state out, but that it was mentioned in either Deadline Hollywood or the Hollywood Reporter at least suggests to me that there must have been some kind of headway in those discussions, especially since we now learn that the movie is indeed in development.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it could be interesting if they did that again. That's something that is, you're saying it's either the Hollywood Reporter or Deadline. I can't remember who said it.
I have to check that out, but I think it was one of them.
As long as it's Todd Phillips directing Joker 2, I don't really mind which route they go down, whether they do bring in, like, tie it into the Matt Reeves' Batman verse, or whether they just keep it as a separate thing but just still have Todd Phillips directing. I think Todd Phillips and and Joaquin Phoenix just works so well together, and they obviously want to work together again. So maybe give them a slightly bigger budget this time. That'd be nicer if they could put it up to like 100 million as
Well, I have a
opposed to.
feeling Warner Brothers is going to do whatever they can not to lose out on this one,
Yeah,
like they
I
did the
think so.
last one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tom, why don't you recap the story of the last one? Because Todd Phillips, originally he wanted to make the movie for more money, but he had some heavy resistance from, well, basically everyone in Warner Media, everyone from Walter Hamada, who eventually greenlit it to his credit, but it was a struggle before going there, and certainly Toby Emmerich was also dead set against it. So he had to trim the budget quite significantly, and I also believe that they entered some cost and profit sharing deals that ended up screwing them over pretty badly when the movie turned out to be the hit it was.
Well, yeah, because I mean, they were obviously resistant to it, as you said before, and I don't think anybody really signed on for it outside of the fact that at first Martin Scorsese was attached to it. And then as soon as he walked away, I'm sure they were all just kind of like, well, now we're stuck with this thing. And yeah, it sounded like it just kind of was treated like the bastard stepchild for a while. And then when it became the $1 billion darling, well, of course, success has many fathers and failure has none. In this case, though, I wonder if this is going to tie more into the whole idea of with Todd Phillips' Joker crossing over with Matt Reeves' Batman. We've heard, the problems with Matt Reeves and Pattinson. And if Pattinson obviously is going to be the one to stick around, I wonder if that means that's going to help with that problem, letting Matt Reeves kind of just go off and do his own thing, and he'll just be an executive producer around this stuff if they are going to truly combine these two worlds together. I don't see that as an impossibility, but I think a lot of it will also depend on how well the Batman plays. I mean, because if that thing flops, then there's no way they're going to attach those two worlds. It would be a suicide for Joker to try and attach those worlds if the Batman flops this next year.
I think it's going to be. Yeah, I agree with you. And the beauty is that they may very well have time to see how Batman works out before deciding what kind of links to put in with the Joker. So they have time to assess the situation. But speaking of time, because these are very, very interesting times for DC films in general and for Warner Media as a whole. Because a couple of years ago, they were acquired by AT&T. And of course, Jason Kilar, he came in, he stripped down the organization immensely. He decided that we're going to focus on HBO Max. We need some kind of content for it. And that is how the Snyder Cut came to be, in direct contrast with the wishes of everyone already in Warner Media that had been trying to bury it for a year. But Kilar and his crew didn't care and made it happen anyway. And they seemed to be generally very sympathetic towards what Snyder wanted to do. Not because they were Snyder fans per se, but because they recognized there's audience demand for this. So let's simply do what it is the audience wants to do. Whereas the opposing side were a little bit more like, well, let's do what we want to do because the audience are pleb. That seems to be what I got from it. But what has happened recently is that Warner Media is being shifted again. Because as it turned out, this whole experiment was a pretty expensive and not too profitable one, certainly not in the short run for AT&T. So they more or less offloaded it by cutting Discovery in on the action, keeping the majority stake, but putting it into a new company and having the CEO of Discovery deal with it. Now, there is a hedge here, and this thing has to be approved by all the regulatory bodies in the American government before this can actually go through. But assuming it does, Warner Media and DC Films will be under new ownership. What do you think that's going to mean for the future of DC? And do you think that the head of Discovery, David Zaslav, might start to exert some influence already?
Well, again, what you said is quite interesting. The fact that this is going to take some while to go through. So it has to go to the Capitol first. So they have to. It took AT&T. I think it was 2 or 3 years before they could actually purchase Warner Media outright. And this stuff might take the same amount of time, but it's a bit different because it's a merger, and they've packaged it a bit differently, which is quite interesting. I don't think we're going to see anything major happen in the DC, changes in the DC comics universe of things like the films until probably 2023 when Walter Hamada's contract's up. So I think Hamada's going to be there until the end of his contract. It was revealed that that Jason Kilar is actually going to be there until 2022, as he says he's going to see out his contract until 2022, which that might be the moment when things also start to really shift. Honestly, the way it's working at the moment, it looks like I can never pronounce his name, but David's the guy from Zaslav. He's very. It seems that he's very keen on changing things up. There are rumors that the ex-CEO of TikTok, he was actually only the CEO of TikTok for 3 months. He was previously at Disney Plus, was in contention to come in and replace Kilar. That seems to have not happened. But it looks like they're looking to change up things. I'm pretty sure Toby Emmerich's gone. He'll probably be gone by the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if Ann Sarnoff will leave sooner rather than later as well, because she was very much brought in by the old guard, brought in by I'm forgetting his name now, the AT&T CEO who brought in. Oh no, Stanky. She was brought in by Toby Emmerich, and Kilar was brought in by Stanky.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So there you have the conflict right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Emmerich, he brought in more of the Hollywood royalty to really emphasize the "we are the elite" attitude that they had going there.
So I think things will change, but it will take time. It's a bit like what's going on at Disney. It's like, with the change of CEO, it will take a while until we start to really see things change. It also depends what happens with whatever they call this company, whether it's going to be called Warner Discovery, whether AT&T just decides to sell it outright. What I've heard is that they want to sell it for $100 billion. Is like the number that's being bandied around, which is just insane money. Like if they think they can get it, they can sell it for that much. That'd be interesting. Discovery's worth quite a lot, but it's just everything at the moment as far as Warner Media is concerned is kind of up in the air. It's kind of back to the drawing board. That they seem to be keeping on Kilar, which is going to be interesting to see what he gets to do, because I actually think he's the only one in that boardroom with a real clue of how to manage things. I mean, we've seen like the Friends reunion, which was very much a thing that he wanted to happen, has done incredible numbers for HBO Max. So it just looks like the things he's been very much championing have been doing well. Even though people didn't like the idea of putting all the films out on HBO Max, the blockbusters day and date on HBO Max. That was actually, the way it was done was a bit muddled and not very well handled, but the idea itself was actually a sound one. We've seen Disney Plus do the same thing as well. Disney are doing the same thing with their movies as well. So honestly, who knows? I think we'll start to see changes in 2023 onwards, like big changes, but until then it's going to be pretty much the same.
Yeah, that last part there, I think, is where initially they were trying to get rid of him, or it was. Even if it was, I'm starting to believe now it was more of an optics thing. And Andre will probably get what I'm saying too. Is like we said last week when they first announced he was looking for another job, that they were probably pushing him out and this whole Discovery deal was coming down because even though Kilar was probably right and every move he was making for Warner Brothers was better for Warner in the end, and it was bringing HBO Max up to the place where Disney was after 2 years in a matter of a year, and doing the impossible there. And to me, I was just like a head scratcher outside of the only thing that can make sense to me is this guy's making nothing but enemies in Hollywood. And Warner Brothers probably panicked because they're like, we lost, Nolan. We got nobody wanting to work with us anymore because of this day and date thing. And like you just said, Edward, everybody else is doing it too. The only difference was Warner Brothers made a big deal about it and announced it and made 12 trailers about it. Disney hasn't. But yet, like you just said, they've been doing the exact same thing. They just didn't announce it, and same thing with a lot of the other companies. So I feel like that was where the first resistance came in. But I wonder if what happened was Killar's like, no, fuck, I'm not leaving, and he probably just stood his ground. I don't know what happened there because right after the Killar announcement happened, that's when we started hearing about Sarnoff and Hamada looking for work. And I'm like, forget about them. They need to get rid of Toby Emmerich. This guy has been the problem forever. And I'm not even sure how he got in that position outside of just maneuvering and snaking his way in there through New Line Cinema. And I don't even know how he managed that because he was never even that great over there. I mean, this guy's claim to fame was stealing the story idea for Frequency. I mean, that's where this guy, I've still been boggling my mind as to how this guy got to where he's at. I've been trying to figure it out for years.
He's a company man.
Exactly. That's because he was a low-level New Line guy for so long, and then all of a sudden he's the head of Warner Brothers.
Oh, he's a politician, and he knows who's the top dog that he has to keep happy, and he knows at all time who to be aligned with, and that eventually paid off, but it can only pay off for so long, as we are seeing right now. Because
Netflix doesn't want him.
What was that, Edward?
Netflix doesn't want him.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I just had to say that.
Yeah, no, by all means. And that's also interesting that Jason Killar can come in, and we see like the things with the things that he has pushed as the Snyder Cut and the Friends reunion, they really worked. So in some sense, he appears to have like a better understanding of what's going to click with audiences and be popular on HBO Max than the people already in Warner Media, the incumbents of the industry that you would think would know this.
Yeah, you would. I mean, that's the way it's going is kind of a bit weird. It is all political inside of Warner Media. It's been like that for so long. Killar was brought in by already he was kind of fighting the tide from the very beginning when he got in there, because he was brought in by Stanky, and he came from Hulu, which is he came from a streaming background, and already Warner Brothers is a very old school kind of movie studio. They don't, I mean, they've never really seen streaming as the future, especially the executives. They've always been very much we need films to be in cinemas. We need the filmmakers to be as happy as possible, which is one of the things that I do like about Warner Brothers. But also, they're just very, especially at the highest level, they're very against change. And I think they felt that it was all going too fast. One of the big problems that they had, I honestly think that just the whole HBO Max thing, releasing that day and date, that was just terrible PR. I think HBO Max in general and Warner Brothers just have terrible PR people.
Right. They should have just did it and not said anything.
Yeah. And they didn't talk to any of the filmmakers as well before they did it. And I think that's one of the main things that Disney made sure they did.
Well, they did talk with one, though. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, go on.
They did the most important one. And I think that they recognized really early on that the one we have to keep happy here is the people behind Wonder Woman, because that's a movie that's all about female representation. So that is the one thing where they went in advance and they said, we're going to drop this here day and date on HBO Max, but to honor your contracts and make sure that you're going to get your bonuses, we're going to pretend that it did 1 billion at the box office and give you your bonuses as if it had done that. And they were the only ones that got that one deal. But in giving them that deal, they effectively bought the silence of Gal Gadot and what's her face again, the director of that movie.
Patty Jenkins.
Yeah, Patty
Jenkins, thank you. But yeah, as it turned out, that was a great deal, because that movie would never have passed $1 billion, not after people saw it. So for them, it was the best thing that could happen. so they didn't complain, and then you're left with a bunch of toxic white male directors complaining, and is that great? No, it's not great, because they lost a relation with Chris Nolan because of it. But it could have been a whole lot worse. It was a disaster that it could have been. So they went and they did at least some deals there. But no, and I think that's also why so many wanted Killar to go, because he came in, he broke some egos, and he made some huge changes. But as we learned in Variety, he didn't pay the deal makers and the brokers with the respect that they felt that they were owed. And that was a high crime.
He doesn't adhere to Hollywood norms, I think is one of the big problems with him, and also just many people in the streaming world. They're very different. They think differently. I mean, we're looking at what Bob Chapek is doing with Disney Plus. It's a similar thing. So he's just getting rid of all Disney channels and now putting them all onto Disney Plus, and it's putting loads of people out of work, kind of. And people don't really seem to be talking about that. And it's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens with HBO Max. What happens to that streaming service now that it's with Discovery? Now that they're kind of technically part of the same company. Like, two of the biggest Discovery is not one of the biggest streaming services around, but it is one of the most important. Like, it has a lot of stuff and has a lot of subscribers. HBO Max has done ridiculously well in its first year, and I think a lot of that is down to Killar and the people behind him, because they know what does well. And it's also, for me, just looking at it as an outsider, I live in France. HBO Max isn't available here. It probably won't be available here for years. It won't be available in the UK for a long time. It's literally just available in the United States, North America, not even Canada. I don't think it's available there. Some territories in Asia.
2024 is when it can be available everywhere, because it's when the last of the content deals that we have with other international partners expire.
So, given how many subscribers they have already, that's pretty impressive, I have to say. Like, they've done really well, and it doesn't. I mean, the fact that they didn't talk about the Snyder Cut numbers, it pissed off a lot of people. But that wasn't an HBO Max decision. That was very much a decision that came from Warner Brothers. So,
yeah. Actually, on that note, let's contrast the Snyder Cut numbers with another Snyder movie that's on Netflix right now, where Netflix were very quick to reveal numbers. Edward, do you have the story here?
Yeah, so it's I don't know if you've heard of a website called Flix Patrol. But it's actually a really good one to go on to if you want to know which movies have been doing really well in the top in like movies and TV series have been doing really well on Netflix. It's actually a really difficult thing to find, because metrics for Netflix, they don't make them publicly available. But Army of the Dead has been the number one movie in every single country in the world apart from Ireland, the United Kingdom, Italy, and Malta. They're the only countries where it's not number one. And it's done. The numbers are just. I mean, Netflix will probably release the numbers pretty soon, because probably at the end of May, because they've just been really, really big. It's. I think it's the fourth movie, like in the top 10 for May, and it's only been. When did it come out? It came out a couple of days ago, so not even that long ago. So it's just doing very, very well, and it's good news for Zack Snyder. It's good news for Snyder fans. Probably means that Army of the Dead sequel will be announced relatively soon. So it's all, Snyder's all right. Let's just say that.
I don't know that the movie got so great reviews, though. I haven't seen it myself, but I haven't seen anyone say that, wow, this was like his previous zombie movie, like the Day of the Dead remake. Quite the contrary. But in terms of numbers, it did amazing. Whether that was because it was a zombie movie, if it was a Snyder movie, a combination of the two, I don't know. But probably a combination, I would think. I mean, we've had many Resident Evil movies, and they didn't do anywhere near these numbers.
No.
Just
and
to put it into context.
I think you are right. I enjoyed Army of the Dead. I thought it was fine. I think I said this on a stream that I did on small screen. It's an okay zombie movie, and actually a relatively poor heist film. I think that's the problem there. The heist element to me wasn't really there, and I was really excited to see that part of that film because that's what it was billed as. It was billed as a zombie heist movie. Dawn of the Dead is much better. Dawn of the Dead is a much better movie. Interestingly enough, it wasn't written by Snyder. It was written by James Gunn, that film. So that might have, I don't know, that might have implications into why the film wasn't quite as well, I don't know, structured. I felt it was a bit haphazard in certain scenes. The thing is, interestingly enough, I think it does warrant repeat viewings because there's a lot of kind of weird stuff in this film that I hadn't actually noticed when I watched it the first time. Like robot zombies are in it. Apparently, there are lots
robot
of
zombies. Wow,
yes, there are robot zombies that I didn't actually. When you watched it the first time, I didn't notice it. All I noticed were the dead pixels, which are on the screen. Which a couple of people, a couple of outlets, including Small Screen, wrote about those because people were complaining about the dead pixels on their TV screens. It was actually a Netflix problem, and so your TV screens are fine if you've got that going on your TV. But I thought that Dave Bautista was brilliant, and I actually think the cast is really good in this film. I think the problem for me was that the heist element just wasn't there. It wasn't clever in that regards. But apparently there are lots of theories about it that the zombies are actually aliens or they're kind of being worked on with alien technology in Area 51, and that's how it all happened. There are interesting theories out there. You go and check it out. It makes, I think, repeat viewings a bit more interesting. So I think it's a fine film. It was like a 7 out of 10 for me. It wasn't quite as good as Zack Snyder's Justice League. Actually, nowhere near as good as Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've heard very mixed things, although I have not yet seen it myself. Also, before we move on, we have almost 1,000 people watching, so it would be great if you could hit that like button. Those of you that haven't done so already. Because that really helps with the algorithm and make this and other streams a little bit more visible. So if you like what we do, please hit that like. That would be awesome. And then we have a couple of super chats that I want to cover before we move on to the next topic. House Atreides says for $5 Andre or Tom, one of you need to change your name for today's show to Nolan Sorrento in honor of episode 101, Innovative Online Industries. This is a reference that I am not familiar with myself. But I'm sure Tom can look that up, and then maybe we can.
What was it called?
Sorrento. Nolan Sorrento, Innovative Online Industries. See what that is, or maybe someone in the comments can get us up to steam.
Oh, it's from Ready Player One.
Ah, okay. You mean the book that I never?
The movie I only saw once. Yeah,
and the movie that was thoroughly unimpressive, apart from He-Man showing up in it. Well, if you're a fan of it, then by all means. I'm not, so I think I'll pass on that. I'll rename myself
by the movie. Yeah,
I'll rename myself House Atreides in time for Dune. And Master Clockwork says, I'd honestly love to see a serious take on Joker's time in the asylum and him slowly twisting the mind of Dr. Harleen Quinzel. Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
Something. That would be very interesting. I'd watch the hell out of that, especially if you have like this Joker doing that. How amazing would that be?
I think that'd be more interesting having him with Harleen rather than him again versus Batman. I think that'd be a more interesting film, especially with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Yeah, I agree completely. That would be much more interesting. But let's hope that Todd Phillips sees it that way too, because it's going to be up to him, I think, to a very large extent. And then we have our good friend Culture Casino here in the chat. Be sure to check out his channel. It's a great channel. And he says, feels like the MSM, mainstream media, is playing catch-up here again. Kind of a little bit, because many of the things that come out in the trades, that's stuff that you cover months before, isn't it, Edward?
Well, I don't really want to say it. I mean, to a certain extent, maybe. What I will say is that it's interesting looking at all of this because the main trades really kind of revealed whose side they're on. So Deadline and Variety were very much on, in I would say Warner Brothers' pocket, whereas the Hollywood Reporter actually came out with some very damning articles. So there was the Ray Fisher article that came out in the Hollywood Reporter, and I was actually quite impressed with them for putting that out, because that was, I mean, I know from personal experience how difficult an article like that would be. You'd have to put it past so many lawyers before you can actually publish it, and that's one of the reasons why I think there was an article that was in Forbes before that an interview with Ray Fisher, that didn't go down so well because they hadn't been so cautious and they hadn't been so. I just don't think as many people got to see that article before it was released, and I think there are certain, if you're going to read the main trade, read the main trades. I always do. I think it's very important to, because that's where really things are properly confirmed, really, and stuff like that. But I've had a lot of respect for the Hollywood Reporter and what they've done, and I'm just quite impressed with some of their reporting on especially this story, because it hasn't been coming out from Deadline and Variety. It's been coming out from the Hollywood Reporter. That's all.
Then probably I believe it was the Hollywood Reporter that had like this little blurb hidden in another story.
Yes, yeah, it was.
That the Joker was set in the same universe as Pattinson's Batman, meaning Earth 2, which is the official designation, I believe.
And they also gave Denis Villeneuve the opportunity to write an op-ed about the HBO Max thing, which I thought that was really interesting as well. That's actually a really interesting article if you want to know more about what filmmakers really thought about all of that. I think you should go and check that out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then moving on with Super Chats, we have Pete Burrows, your creative mentor. And he says, instead of making Joker 2, they should make a Riddler movie in the same universe. The Riddler could meet the Joker at the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's kind of where I thought this thing was going to go at first, because especially they started talking about a Lex Luthor movie, and it's like, really, outside of Joker, the Riddler and maybe Poison Ivy would be the two better ones to probably do something like that with, because they actually have stories. Maybe Mr. Freeze. A lot of the Batman's Rogue Gallery has interesting stories, but do I want to see 20 movies like the Joker? No. The Joker was kind of an anomaly. Like, let's be real. It's 2 movies crammed together with the Joker slapped on top of it. And it is very watchable. It is a very great movie, but it is basically Taxi Driver meets that one movie with
King of Comedy.
King of Comedy. Yeah, I couldn't think of the name of it. And it really all it is. Do they need to keep going? No. I feel like this is gonna blow up in their face, to be honest with you. I really do. Yeah, but yeah, Edward Nygma would be the next logical step if you're going to do something like this in this kind of a universe. I was always disappointed that Nolan didn't pick Riddler for the third Batman film. It made logical sense in his grounded Batman universe. So what does he do? Picks Bane. Like, what the hell are you doing? You might as well went with Man-Bat or some shit if you're going to pick Bane.
I think I know what he wanted to do with Bane. I think it was he just wanted to cast Tom Hardy. And I think the only role that he could really see Tom Hardy play was Bane.
You could be right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, because the two of them, they have a solid working relationship.
Yeah.
And some of Hardy's best work is in Nolan movies, so it's hard to disagree with that. But yeah, not the best role and not the best reimagining. But can't knock everything out of the water.
Honestly, I'm surprised that Joaquin's even on board with this. I know you guys were talking about this before I even got in here, but like, I can see everybody else doing it, and I would figure he would be the one to be like, nope, I'm good. You might be,
you have a point, but I think he just likes working with Todd Phillips.
That could very well be, and maybe he didn't make as much money the first time around, and you know, as much as he acts like a hippy dippy whatever, I'm sure, you know, money.
He can act like a hippy dippy, but when you roll 50 million,
exactly
in
my
front of him,
point. Yes,
and then they say,
exactly.
okay,
50 million will do it.
You can now choose between you want that to be an original movie and be an artist who doesn't like sequels, and you can go and be hungry and you can eat cat food and stuff like that, or you can look at this mountain of cash we have piled up for you right here, and you don't have to like the movie. You just have to go in and just say your lines, and really that's it.
Yeah, I know. No, and I understand completely why he would do it. I'm not saying that anybody's above that, but no, and I think that's why this movie's happening. That kind of brings me back to my initial point. I think there was a lot of people involved who did not get a piece of the pie the first time out, and they want a piece this time, and they're going to make sure they get theirs up front, probably.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and just to emphasize how successful it was, this movie, and this was a movie that many in the media were completely against. Remember the marketing for it? How many people found it so problematic that they practically said that if you go and see this movie, some incel is going to go and shoot you in the theater. That was the marketing.
Yeah.
But in spite of that, the movie ended up being a massive, massive hit. So massive, in fact, that it outgrossed Star Wars Rise of Palpatine.
That's a good name. Oh man, I often think about that, and I'm like, how the hell did that do that? And also, at the time, I remember those reports coming out being like, "Oh, this is this sort of movie is giving this complete wrong message." I mean, it's a movie. Let's be honest. It's you know, if people go and see it and think something about it, then that's their prerogative. It's not the filmmakers that are trying to do that. That was really stupid, I think, at the time. I really thought that was really upsetting, actually, that a lot of people were writing that sort of rubbish, which just make it worse, really, I think, in the long run.
Yeah, which was funny because if they actually had paid attention, there was a lot of things in Joker they could have hung onto the, you know, the woke train and been like, see. But no, instead, you know, they had a perfect opportunity, and everybody did, to kind of have a point to come together and be like, look, this is how you do woke material right. You know, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying Joker is overly woke in any way, shape, or form. Don't get me wrong, but you know, it does bring attention to the mentally ill. It does have a lot of.
It's not woke at all. What it is that it actually does promote social justice in what it always was before and what it should continue to be. That's what it did. And also for those that are like wondering, what are we talking about with like how it was promoted, just go to Google and just look for Midnight's Edge Joker and see the videos that we made at the time of the movie's release, where we break that out in detail. That's actually when we first started working out with Lauren Jen, because she actually shared one of our videos. She even like talked it up, like, you have to see this video. That was pretty cool. And then moving back to the super chats, because I want to go.
Yeah, the script says better what I was trying to say, and that is Joker creates drama from the social issues instead of preaching the social issues. But since it did it in a way that, you know, was actually good, they had to make a problem of it. Plus, it had a white male lead, as I think Dr. Coffinails pointed out, which is the bigger problem.
Yeah.
And then the whole movie was mistaken for something that it wasn't, and promoting messages that it didn't. So you had a very big part of the entertainment media complex, not everyone, but a very big part of it, that decided to gang up on the movie in advance without having seen it and assuming it was something that it wasn't, and judging it on that.
And in the end, Joker went on without a hitch, and somebody got cut the fuck up at Frozen 2, though.
So that's tragic and ironic, but that's
nobody died, at least from my recollection, but some motherfucker brought a machete.
Yeah. What was the film where? Was it Batman? Was it Nolan's Batman where there was a shooting? Was
the second Dark.
That was the Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. But that had nothing to do with the movie more so over than it did to do with the fact that there was more people in the theater.
And it was misreporting in the media that the guy had dressed like the Joker, although he clearly hadn't, because the Joker doesn't look like that. Instead, I also covered this in that video we did at the time, because that was also something that fed up to the narrative of what the problematic character of the Joker was, because of that shooting there was, and then they latched onto the narrative that the shooter dressed like the Joker, which was a misreporting, because that never
it gets
happened.
more clicks. That's what it does.
Yeah.
Having worked at one of the outlets, which is literally a click machine, clickbait machine, which is the Express. That's the sort of thing they do all the time. It probably was the Express that wrote that article. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised.
Actually, I don't recall if it was or not, but I actually in that video I have to rewatch it myself, because but there basically I trace it back to where that whole misconception actually begun. So to break it down but this is complete BS. It came from one police officer that made some kind of assumption, and then he said this to the wrong reporter that decided to run with it.
Yeah, I think the kid had like pink hair or some shit like that.
He had orange hair.
Or orange hair, yeah, that's what it was, yeah.
And his own statement was, no, he was dressing like anyone else, but in his worldview, that would make him look dangerous and tough, which is why he colored his hair crazy orange.
No, just the media latched onto it, and it was just one of those things where, the perfect story was made because of that,
Yeah.
That's all it was. And then they wanted to recreate that for the Joker. They were dying for it to happen. Like, they were practically pushing people to do it. And same thing with Rambo. I swear they were trying to do the same kind of shit there too, but on a lesser level. Andre knows, because they had all those like anti-conservative fucking stories about Rambo, and it was just like, are we really going to this point again with Rambo?
Yeah. But moving on with the super chats before we move on with the stories that we have today. Dash D's, he sent us a $10 Canadian super chat without any comment, but thanks for the support. And Roll Titan also says for $10, I hope they don't cross them. The Todd Phillips Joker is no match for Batman. The Joker has genius-level intellect. It is the only way he can hang with Batman. Todd Phillips' Joker is as dumb as a box of rocks. And you are not completely wrong.
You're not wrong. No.
You are not wrong. The Joaquin Phoenix Joker is no criminal mastermind, let's say, and they were like very quick even to say that maybe this isn't a real Joker. Maybe he meets someone in Arkham Asylum that's inspired by him, and then that again becomes the Joker that Batman will later come to know, which is something that I'm more inclined to believe, because I somehow doubt that Arthur Fleck is suddenly going to go through a process in which he becomes a super genius and ready to take on Batman.
Yeah. I think that was my biggest problem with the film, actually, was that it's billed as the Joker, but really Arthur Fleck isn't the Joker. He just adopts a persona. And I think that's interesting in its own way. It's a very different thing. I think it's a different interpretation of the character. It's a different version of the character. Now, we're already seeing with Robert Pattinson's Batman, he's going up against Paul Dano's Riddler.
Leatherface. I mean,
Leatherface. I actually quite like the look. I think it's quite different. But yeah, I know a lot of people didn't like it. But and it does seem to me as though his Batman is really going to be just kind of looking into mysteries and really being a detective more than any other Batman before. And I just don't feel like Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck or Joker would work with that. I think he's too chaotic in a weird way. And he's a bit too he cares too much about himself, and he doesn't really think. I mean, the Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker was all about I have no plan, but really he did, and that was the whole kind of genius behind that character, was there was always actually a plan behind everything.
Well, his big plan was to make everybody a hypocrite, kind of thing.
Yeah. Whereas I just don't feel like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker had that sort of intelligence to him. He was just a bit more chaotic and a bit more there was a slight degree of whininess about him, which kind of it irked me slightly when I watched it again. But I do get it. It's giving off another version of that character, which is fine in its own right. It just might not work in the same universe as, like, that particular character might not work in the same universe as Robert Pattinson's Batman.
Yeah, and no, I get where you're coming from, and I was kind of the same point, and I agree with some people in the chat now. Like, if anything, I see Arthur Fleck as maybe the guy who really inspires the true Joker.
Yeah,
which that could maybe be what the second film could be about. That's a good way to kind of set this off. But to go back to the whole Pattinson thing and the connection thing, it's only going to be tangentially connected until it's truly connected. And like I said, if the Batman doesn't do as well or isn't received very well, I guarantee you they're going to quickly backtrack that. And it's very easy to do.
Also on that note, Mike Ayers even says, didn't Todd Phillips always say his Joker was a proto-Joker?
Yeah.
And not the one Batman would ultimately face.
Something to that effect.
They already did that.
I think he said something like this. This could be the version that inspires the next Joker.
Right, and that's what I was saying too. Yeah. And Dash D's, as far as the super chats go, that sometimes they do that. They won't even let them go through if you have certain combinations of words and stuff. So I'm not sure what you were trying to write exactly. I see you were trying to use a Lenin quote. And that would probably set it off pretty quick. I'm sure
that's gonna get the super chat or the message of a super chat redacted real quick by the bots here. So be careful with
if it'll even let you go through. Like, that's the other thing is I've noticed certain times if you're trying to type certain things, it will not even let the super chat go through.
Yeah, exactly. So be very, very careful with what one chooses to say about that. Yeah,
that or just say like, see my other message, and then just add us or something, and we can try and take care of it that way.
And also on a much more pleasant note, that James guy says subscribe to Small Screen. Yeah, to which I agree completely. Subscribe to Small Screen. Link is in the description.
James is my producer and is a really good guy. And actually, I think he said they wouldn't let him write subscribe, so that's why it's written that way.
That's not surprising. See, exactly what we were just trying to friggin' say.
Again, that's what we're saying. I mean, there are limits to what you are able to send. I mean. And we're just going to leave it at that, so we don't say anything too wrong.
I'm sure we've said more than enough already this show to.
Yeah. And Jesus Davia sent us a super chat with a thumbs up and a smiley face for $10. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Let's see if there's something more I can bring up on screen before I can get back to the classics. Nope. Then we go back to the classics. Dark Shadow 308 also says for $10. Thank you so much. Joker is an overhyped movie. It's an amalgamation of several better movies. That was not the Joker. He had no black humor, no intelligence, and the sadism was missing. Yes, as we were saying. And Merlin's Id says first, much like in nature, if you don't evolve, you die. Get with the times, WB boomers. And also, Patty is the worst Jenkins since Leroy.
Oh, God.
And Dash D's points out that if you say Army of the Dead is fine is not a great compliment. And STR Red Wolf, we'll get back into that. Stephen Otten says Ready Player One would have been better with Jennifer Connelly in it. I'm sorry, could I say that
about
out
anything
loud?
Probably would be.
Well, you made me say it out loud, but I guess it goes for the same. And then we have STR Red Wolf, who says, enough DC chat. Time for Marvel. Hulk smash like button. Smash. Yes, indeed. So everyone smash.
I wish there was something positive to talk about with Marvel, though. But we have the Spider-Man story. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yes. Let us begin with the Spider-Man story, because we recently learned... Tom, do you have the story ready? Because I don't.
I can grab it. I don't have it handy, but I can grab it here. I sent it to you, remember?
Yeah.
Because I was just like, what the hell? I'm like, this just goes completely against everything that we knew was going on.
Yeah. Because this is actually more of a Sony story than it is a Marvel story. We know for some time that Sony has been trying to cast Kraven the Hunter for their own movie, and there have been various actors attached. Keanu Reeves was in talks at some point, but those talks evidently broke down. But now they have a new actor in place.
This just seems like
Aaron Taylor Johnson,
an underhanded move if I ever saw one.
Yeah, the same actor who portrayed the Quicksilver in the MCU. And there's a lot to unpack with him suddenly being cast in a Sony movie in a different role. Not the least the fact that Marvel actually brought in another version of the Quicksilver in WandaVision, and then they fooled us all because it turned out he wasn't the Quicksilver at all within the MCU. He was just some dude called Boner.
Sorry.
We see this story. Edward, why don't you take us through the details? What do you think is going on here? What's the implications of this?
Yeah, so Aaron Taylor Johnson is playing Kraven in the solo Kraven the Hunter movie. So I think before he was attached like last night. This news came out last night. I think the actors attached to it who had been offered the role before were I think Brad Pitt was actually the first person that was like approached by Sony, and he turned it down. And then I think it was Adam Driver. And then after Adam Driver, then there was lots of reports that Keanu Reeves was going around, like attached to this project. And then eventually, they landed on Aaron Taylor Johnson, which, I mean, as far as casting is concerned, I always thought that for me there was only really one person that I thought could play the role, and that was I'm forgetting his name now. The guy on The Boys, the New Zealand actor. Dear, why am I forgetting his name? This is going to annoy me now.
I haven't watched The Boys yet, so
I need to wait. He's, if anyone in the chat, Carl Urban. That's it.
Oh, Carl Urban.
I always thought Carl Urban was perfect for the role. I did not like the idea of Keanu Reeves playing Kraven the Hunter because, as we all know, Keanu Reeves cannot do accents. And one of the big things about this character is he's Russian, but I think they might make him Eastern European.
Keanu does the greatest surfer accent ever. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, that's the one he can do. He can't do a British accent, definitely. If you watch that.
It was a joke. He established that to the world with with his Dracula movie.
With his Dracula. So, and I think I do genuinely think that Aaron Taylor Johnson is actually a really good actor. If you guys have watched Nocturnal Animals, he is brilliant in that film. And I know lots of people don't like it. Or I'm not sure if you like or don't like his Quicksilver. I rewatched Avengers: Age of Ultron recently, and I thought his Quicksilver was actually all right. I thought it was pretty good. It was kind of like Joss Whedon's standard character.
Yeah. He wasn't the problem. I mean, he did nothing wrong in that movie. That movie has plenty problems, but none of them are down to his performance in particular.
No. I still feel like half our movies on the cutting room floor. Yeah. His performance is probably with it.
Yeah, and also he was really good in Kick-Ass, where he was actually also usurped by Aaron Peters by a fun coincidence. So I think they're going to have like that going for the rest of their careers. But yeah, no, he's a fine actor. He really is. If anything, like the worst role he ever did, in my opinion, was in Godzilla. And again, that wasn't really his fault. That was the character that was poorly written, so he had very little to work with. And he was done a huge disservice because the audience went in expecting Bryan Cranston to be the one to guide them through the movie. Whereas he was on the unfortunate giving end of a bait and switch without ever having asked for it, which I don't blame him.
He got psychoed out in the first 30 minutes,
Yeah.
And yeah, he was briefly in Tenet. Yeah, that was the last thing we saw him in, was in Tenet. So
Yeah.
he was all right in that again. He kind of was typecast as like an army guy, which I didn't really get, because of course him in Godzilla he was that, and he kind of ended up appearing in like lots of army roles, which I think he's better than that. I do think I genuinely think this is interesting casting. I would have never thought of it personally. I would have never said, yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson for Kraven the Hunter. But I like the idea of seeing a movie with Tom Hardy's Venom, Jared Leto's Morbius, and Aaron Taylor Johnson's Kraven the Hunter. I think it'll be awful, like to a certain degree. I don't know why, but I just think it will. But I think it'll be fun, and I think that's what these Sony kind of Marvel films are. It's just they're kind of fun, and they're not brilliant. They're not the best movies ever made, but they're not trying to be either. So that's my opinion on it anyway.
Yeah. One question that I have, though, and this has to do with the connectivity that is or is not between the Sony and the Marvel movies, and also what kind of integration there's going to be in the Marvel multiverse. Because I know many people were excited by Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I know I was, and the biggest reason why I was I will say it one more time. I lost my train of thought there. WandaVision actually made me less excited for it, because there you had Quicksilver, and everyone kind of assumed they were going to bring in the literal exact same Quicksilver that audiences had actually come to love in the X-Men movies into the MCU. It looked like that, but it wasn't. It was just one big cop-out. Yeah. And you also had a similar thing in the Spider-Man, the previous Spider-Man movie, where Mysterio also promised us a multiverse, and in the end, it was just a fake. It was just some reject Stark Tech guy. And we also have heard rumors that in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, there's going to be the multiple Spider-Men, that we have actors associated with previous Spider-Man movies that are going to be in a later Spider-Verse movie for Sony. But in light of those two things, and now they actually reuse someone who is canon in the MCU in the Sonyverse. What does this imply for not just Doctor Strange? I mean, are we not going to see the actors reprise their earlier roles? Will there be like new MCU takes on what they have played before? And what about this? Is it a complete coincidence, or is there something more to it? Is this like some kind of like sniping, like, haha, you screw with us, now we're going to screw you back, and we're going to use this guy to as a means to do it? What's going on here? Are there any kind of implications from this, or am I reading way too much into it?
I think you're reading too much into it. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future, but I just don't think that the Sony Spider-Man films are ever going to tie in with the MCU films. I see them as they think of them as separate entities, even though they are technically connected, because I'm pretty sure Spider-Man will cross over into them. I think that's as far as it's going to get. I don't think we're ever going to see Tom Hardy play Venom in the MCU. And I don't think
so, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen, because and I think this is why they cast Aaron Taylor Johnson. If anything, this casting of Aaron Taylor Johnson kind of confirms that to me, because technically Quicksilver is canon, and he did play Quicksilver in the MCU, and that was in an Avengers film. It's not like he turned up in like a 2-bit part that it was a cameo that you could just kind of erase out of continuity. He was a main character in one of the movies. So having him then turn up later on as Kraven the Hunter in an MCU film, that would, to me, be a bit jarring, and I think to a lot of audience members as well. And I think Kevin Feige knows this, and I think Sony knows this as well. So I think they're just going to keep it separate.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, but also at the same time, you have people like Amy Pascal who have always wanted to blur that line purposefully.
Yeah.
And I think their initial plan was to pull out after those two movies and use, the idea that Spider-Man's in the Marvel universe to sell their universe now. And I know Feige got smart to that right away, and I think that's where this deal was kind of brought down to, and Feige's more than happy to let them have their own separate universe. And at the same time, I think they're going to put the kibosh on Amy being able to do too much of that crap with Spider-Man 3 being all about the multiverse. And it kind of just opens up the door that, it all exists, it all happens, it all, kind of like they're doing with DC over on their end, which that was the initial idea with doing Flash that way, is to open up the door, because it was, this way we don't have to worry about all the continuities and all that kind of crap, and people can just make their own movies going forward, kind of thing. And I don't think that's the same motivation with the Spider-Man thing. I think that was more to just kind of like put a pin in Amy trying to pull the woolly over the audience's eyes by pulling in Tom Holland's Spider-Man into their Venom and Morbius and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. She's gone now anyway, Pascal, so she's no longer part of Sony.
Yeah, not in Sony, but
not in Sony, but she's got her hooks deep into Spider-Man.
Yeah,
is she still involved in Spider-Man?
Hell yeah, I'll go watch every movie. They even got Pascal Productions in the beginning of them. Yeah,
they are, and that's actually a very big part of why the Marvel deal happened, or the Marvel Sony deal happened in the first place, because that happened on Amy Pascal's way out of the door. That was one of the final things that she did. And what I have been told is, I cannot prove this. This is just rumor. But basically, the rumor that I have been told is that she told Kevin Feige is that, you know what, everything is done for a rights sharing deal. We only need one more thing, and that is my signature. And for you to get my signature, I'm going to need your signature, that you're going to insist that Pascal Productions be part of any and all Spider-Man movies going forward from Marvel's end. Which is why in any and all Spider-Man productions, including Venom and all of those things, it's co-produced by Pascal Productions. So she's still part of that. Because I was apparently rumored to be part of the requirement for the ride-sharing deal to happen.
But you're right. No, they booted her ass off the Sony lot. They got rid of her at Sony, but she's got her hooks deep into Spider-Man.
Because that happened after the Sony hack, didn't it? They got rid of Pascal.
Yeah. She was the human sacrifice for that. Michael Lindman, he stayed on for a while longer, but Amy Pascal was the one who humiliated herself much more in those emails. So she was the one that had to go. It was very much her emails that were brought to the forefront, and in my opinion, not the worst ones. Like slightly embarrassing, but nothing too bad really. But bad enough that a human sacrifice was needed, as sometimes is required in politics, corporate and otherwise.
Well, she was on her downward slope anyway. I mean, chances are if it wasn't Spider-Man or the email leaks, something else was going to get her fired eventually anyway.
Again, Tom Rothman had to do a lot of cleaning up when he came in.
As you do.
Yeah, as one does. But moving on from there, while we are on the topic of Marvel, I agree with you. This casting to me looks like the Marvel MCU and the Sony Snyderverse, or as I personally like to call it, the Venomverse. Because let's face it, outside of Marvel, it's Venom that is their top tier character right now. So I would not be surprised if this movie does take place in the Venomverse, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Kraven show up in a future Venom sequel alongside Morbius. That's my take on it. What do you think about that? Or are there multiple Sony verses?
No, I think this is all part of the same universe, like the Venom. The Venomverse is a good one. You should trademark that. I haven't heard anyone else say that, but I think that's what it's going to be. And I have a feeling that it'll end up. They'll basically make, after this film, after Kraven the Hunter, they'll do like their own Avengers film with Venom, Morbius,
All
and
the bad
Kraven
guys,
all in one movie.
Kind of a
Because-
semi-Sinister Six kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll even call it the Sinister Six, because that's one of the things that
they might
really been working on. So the Sinister Six featuring whoever works of their solo villains.
Yeah, but they're kind of, in a weird way, that they're making them more anti-heroes than villains, aren't they? Like, I mean, Venom I wouldn't really call a villain in the first film. I don't think he will be in the second one. Morbius is going to be, that film just is puzzling me, because I'm looking at that going, what are they trying to get here? Are they trying to make, like, because Morbius in the comics is kind of a tragic character, and is always, especially in the Spider-Man animated series, is always trying to like do the right thing. So I wonder whether that's going to come through. And then Kraven the Hunter is kind of similar. Often he is a villain in the comics, but in some other Marvel properties, he's actually kind of a weird kind of hero in a way. He becomes a hero to, especially I'm thinking especially the Spider-Man animated series. If they take a cue out of that, they might end up going down that route. So that'll be interesting to see what they do with those characters.
Yeah, it's also taking a cue from the comics, because Venom, he started out a villain, but he very quickly, or at least like it felt like forever at the time, but like when you're looking back at it, it didn't take that many years before he kind of like forgave Spider-Man and became something of an ally. And in the comics these days, he's an anti-hero bordering on a hero. And that's clearly like the route that they're going. He's only an anti-hero in that he sometimes eats bad guys.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested to see what they do. I just don't think these films are particularly good, but it seems as though a lot of people enjoy them. People went to see Venom did really well at the box office. That film did really well.
I had fun with it.
It was fun. I think fun's the good word for it. It's kind of, it's like
stupid fun.
Yeah, stupid fun. There you go. That's what these films are. Yeah.
And they seem to be continuing with that, because as for me personally, I'm actually looking more forward to Venom and Carnage than I am anything coming out from Marvel up until, well, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is like the first thing. Personally, I've already written off the 3 movies before then. And while we are on that topic, that's also something that I wanted to hear your take on, because recently we have learned that the next Marvel movie coming out, that's obviously Black Widow. I don't know how many are excited for that. I don't see too much press for it, but that's going to come this summer. It'll do fine. And then it's Shang-Chi, and then it's the Eternals, both of which have trailers out. None of those trailers were received all that well. We got like statements saying that the Eternals trailer is the biggest Marvel trailer released in the pandemic. So hedge after hedge after hedge to try
asterisk after asterisk.
Yeah, try to make it a success when it clearly wasn't. I would also like to note that that's a trailer that they did the exact same trick that they did with the later Ghostbusters trailer, namely that they released it at the same time at a host of different YouTube channels, so you don't have one YouTube channel where you can easily track the views and everything. It's scattered across like 20 places, so it's much more difficult to see the total number of views. And again, none of those movies are going to be released in China, and I don't observe any kind of excitement for them. As a journalist,
is Shang-Chi not coming out in China?
Nope.
No.
Wow.
Probably not. It's
I didn't know that.
it's not written in stone yet, but probably
not
it's not
likely.
coming out in China. Neither Eternals nor Shang-Chi. Eternals because
Seriously?
of its director. Oh yeah.
Well, Eternals
Shang-Chi
is a little bit more solid because of the director.
That's
Yeah.
that's the more solid one. But on that list where this story comes from of Marvel movies that have a release date in China, which comes from like some kind of like Chinese release listing, both Eternals and Shang-Chi are absent.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Shang-Chi, I guess, was more so probably because of the backlash over the trailer was, I think they were calling it like racist and a few other things, wasn't it, Andre?
Well, actually, here's the no. They didn't call it. There were
not flat
complaints
out, but yeah,
that from our Western perspective would be labeled as racist.
Why is it racist?
Oh, because the actors in it, according to the Chinese, are too ugly and stereotypically Chinese looking. They're too slanty-eyed, whereas they prefer people with for real. The Chinese say that these actors do not conform with Chinese beauty ideals in that they are too dark-skinned and they are too slanty-eyed. Whereas according to Chinese beauty ideals of beauty, again, this is straight from Chinese social media.
Well, not just that. I don't know if you're. I'm sure you're.
Yeah, we're getting into it, but again, these actors, for them to conform to Chinese beauty ideals, they needed to be more light-skinned, and they needed to have more or less slanted eyes, so they don't think that these are pretty people. So that's one thing. And the bigger one is the origins of the Shang-Chi character, because what they're very well aware of, the ultra-nationalist in social media, which is very much driven by the CCP, is that the character started out as the son of Fu Manchu. And Fu Manchu is a character that is not all that popular in China, certainly not with Chinese authorities. Like the Chinese authorities even lodged a formal protest against the 1932 Fu Manchu movie starring Boris Karloff. And they certainly weren't too happy with any other Fu Manchu movie to come since. And that is also one thing that is a complaint here, that fine, so they changed the name of the character. It's no longer Fu Manchu, it's the Mandarin, which is kind of like Fu Manchu, so it's not a huge
yeah. And then no, you're not wrong, Beach of Edu, and it's actually a little bit, and I'm not making an excuse for them. What they really want is they want American actors, they want big stars, they want they want Will Smith, they want Angelina Jolie, they want Tom Cruise, they want to go to, when they go to see a movie, they want to see big movie stars. They don't want to go see movies like Shang-Chi. So
and what was said also, and this is something that was repeated in Variety. I know this was Variety, where they basically then referenced the conversations in approved Chinese social media, where they basically said that this is a movie that makes Chinese people look stupid. So we hope that the Chinese censors do their job and do not let these Americans come in here and make fun of us and capitalize on it.
No, and Alex, you're not completely wrong. I mean, they just want movie like. That's why Schwarzenegger and Stallone were so big. I keep reminding people, was not so much, they were just recognizable throughout the world, and they were big here in the U.S., but they were even bigger elsewhere.
Yeah,
they were huge movie stars. So, and that's what the Chinese people want to see. They don't want to go, if they want to see a Chinese movie, they'll just go see a Chinese movie. That's what they say. If they want to go see an American movie, they want to see big American stars.
That Chinese movie evidently will have Chinese actors that are more fair-skinned and have less slanty eyes than the cast of Shang-Chi.
And I can't argue because it's true. And it's really fucked up, but. No, it is.
Also, it referenced that the movie has a couple of stars that are big
also
in China
against
already.
Against the government.
But those stars may be about to be blacklisted in China for the crime of being in Shang-Chi.
There's that too, and if they spoke out against the government at all, and then that's why you have this whole thing with Cena apologizing over the Taiwan bit. And I think you're right, Edward. I think of all the films, Shang-Chi has a chance of getting released over there, but it's going to have the same fate as Mulan. It's just not going to fare very well, and it's going to get a shit ton of backlash. Disney's probably going to try and hide it as much as possible, but then again, they may have learned. I doubt it, but they may have learned their lessons from Mulan and stuff like that, but I doubt it.
It's a shame. It's a shame because I actually thought out of the two trailers that came out, so Shang-Chi and Eternals, the Shang-Chi trailer was much more promising, even though there were bits of it that I wasn't massively keen on. I thought that the film looked good to me. I thought there were elements of it. I'm not a massive fan of what's her name, Awkwafina? Is that how you say it? I think she kind of does the same thing. She's literally doing the same thing in this film that she did in Jumanji 2, which is just a bit old now. But I do like Simu Liu. I think he's a really good lead. I'm a big fan of his, and I was hoping that this would really kind of catapult him. It's a shame. That's a shame. I thought the Eternals trailer was actually quite boring.
Yeah, I think of our good
God,
friend,
I don't think you're alone in that.
She said that she lasted 15 seconds into the Eternals trailer.
I'm waiting to hear from somebody who's actually said they liked the trailer, to be honest with you.
I haven't seen anyone.
I haven't seen, no.
Yeah.
I think it was Deadline that reported it was 77 million people watched the trailer in the first 24 hours. And I was like, I know I don't want to put conspiracy theories out there, but I'm going to put one out. I'm like, how many of those people were in a warehouse somewhere?
Well, they also don't tell you is that sometimes these trailers are attached to advertisements.
But that's the thing. Yeah.
So like you get all these views. That's because they're an ad for another video that somebody's watching, And Andre and Rico, you're right. Like the two most popular actors right now in China are The Rock and Jason Statham, which is weird because they're like the modern day Schwarzenegger and Stallone, if you really look at it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also Hypnotic and Rapture, who is of ancient descent, that disappeared from me there, also said that I can vouch for Tom and Andre because they're telling the truth. This
and,
is also,
and Hypnotic also pointed out that they're Asian as well. So
yeah. Interesting times for Marvel going forward. But basically, so it does appear that Phase 4 isn't going to be the huge hit that they would have wanted. Certainly with China off the map for at least 2 movies. How do you think that may affect the direction that they could take going forward? Have you heard anything from behind the scenes of Marvel?
Not as far as Marvel's concerned. No, that's quite a tough nut to crack. I'm going to be honest, but as I'm just talking from, I'm just speculating now. I do wonder whether they're going to kind of do less pandering to China in the way that they've been doing it in the past. If this is the case, if they're saying that they don't want this sort of thing, they don't like feeling pandered to, which it's been going on for years. That they've been saying that for quite some time, and Marvel's been doing this for quite some time as well. They changed the end. Well, they added a scene onto Iron Man 3 specifically for Chinese audiences, and it's just like I think they're smarter. They're smarter than that. If they want to see what they want to see is a Hollywood blockbuster. So, I mean, I do think Eternals and Shang-Chi are both going to be really good. I think I'm interested to see what Chloe Zhao does with what she did with Eternals and the cast. If you want a big blockbuster cast, now that's a really big cast. You've got Angelina Jolie in there. You've got the Stark brothers are both in there as well. Game of Thrones was pretty big. So, I think they'll do well, probably not as well as they'd want them to do. I don't think either of these films is going to crack $1 billion. I just don't see that.
That would shock me.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that would.
They will try to make it look like they do, but no, yeah. I think you're right, Edward. I think that even more so than like Captain Marvel and some of the other movies where they really tried hard to make it look like a hit. They're going to have a harder time with these, especially the Eternals. I think the Eternals is going to be the equivalent of the Inhumans but only on the big screen, and it's just gonna land like a dead fart on screen, and everybody's just gonna be like, what is this garbage? And they're gonna try and pretend it never happened. I bet you watch.
I mean, I just as a fan, I hope not. I hope that doesn't happen. But there is a part of me that's like, oh, this might happen.
Well,
I have faith in Chloe Zhao.
of course,
she's
yeah.
a good director.
I want it to be good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like hoping any hateful shit on it or anything like that. But just after seeing this trailer, everything we've heard about it, this was a project that was started before Marvel got their hands on the X-Men and all that kind of stuff. And not only that, I've heard nothing but reshoots for the last. That's one of the reasons why we haven't heard any. From a couple people now, I've heard that this has been nothing but reshoots that they've been doing for the last 2 years, and that's why we haven't seen anything till now. So that doesn't bode well either.
No, it doesn't.
Well, we can hope for the best there.
Yeah, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. I think that's the motto.
Yeah, I think that's a very healthy rule to take with some of the things we see from the MCU right now.
I will say this about the reshoots. One of the reasons why they were probably drug out so long is because of the situation we're in. Things were shut down. I will give them that much. But the fact that they waited this long to show us anything from this movie that was finished 2 years ago initially, that gives me worse than Rise of Skywalker vibes, because that was a movie that just had to happen no matter what. You know what I mean? Like they were up to the wire because it was set to come out and there was no stopping that train. The Eternals, on the other hand, isn't Star Wars, so they could get away with just kind of holding back on it. So I don't know.
I think you're right, Andre, what you said before. I think the film that I'm most looking forward to is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Not just because one of my favorite directors of all time is directing it, Sam Raimi. I just loved the fact that they managed to bring him back to do another Marvel film. Yeah, that is. But also just, I think this is the film that's really going to showcase Doctor Strange as he should have been in it to begin with, like really, really playing around with mad stuff. It's called the Multiverse of Madness. I love that name. I think it's a fantastic name, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be as good as I think. I think it's going to be really good, and I also have a feeling that the Spider-Man film is going to be really good as well. I think those two films, I've got a good feeling about those two films.
Yeah, I hope so, and Marvel really could need it, because I'm not too optimistic about the next three. So let's hope that their fortunes change from Spider-Man going forward, which would be Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. I have another story that I want to take up with you, but before that, a couple of more super chats. STR Redwolf says, cue Batman print comics using the word boner in 3, 2, 1. And Dash D's says, consider how diplomatic I am. Have I ever considered politics? And the answer to that is no. Here in Norway, the stage for that is much too small that I would be interested in being.
Not just that, like I said,
market.
Not just that. When I said when that first came in, I'm like, I think you're too honest for politics. You wouldn't last long.
Probably. Like I can be political, but I can have a lashy tongue under that sometimes. So yeah, that's not for me. And Sontar says Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. I'm so excited. Well, cool. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Glad for those who are fans,
Yeah, and with that, I'm going to bring up another story here that I really want to talk with you about, because it's one that I certainly find very, very intriguing. You see, I'm a big fan of the Princess of Mars stories. And for that reason, I was not a big fan of the movie John Carter of Mars that came out a year ago. That movie kind of killed sword and sorcery on the big screen for a long time to come.
And tell Andrew Stanton that.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm very happy to tell Andrew Stanton. I'll go one further. I'll tell him to his face, you did this. This was all your fault. I mean, there's some people that like to blame Bob Iger and executives and Disney. And no, the only things that they did wrong was that they gave Andrew Stanton everything he wanted. Maybe not in terms of casting, because that was more the agents and everything else, but story-wise and what he wanted to have in the movie, they gave him carte blanche to do exactly what he wanted, with his Pixar friends vouching for him and his idiotic idea of trying to change the way that movies were made by doing it Pixar style, which is basically remaking it over and over and over again until it sticks. You can do that in animation, but with actors that have a schedule, it's a slightly different matter. So I will be very happy to tell Andrew Stanton to his face, you messed this up for all of us. I have no qualms about that. And if I ever do a John Carter of Mars retrospective, Andrew Stanton better have a stiff one ready before he watches this. Let's just put it that way. He gets no pass for me. But
Andre, that's a stiff drink.
Hey, phrasing.
Yes.
Stiff drink, not stiff one. Just to be clear.
Fine, stiff drink. You catch my drift. He better have a stiff drink ready before watching the Midnight's Edge retrospective of John Carter, because it will not be kind to him. But there may be hope yet, because, again, according to Small Screen, John Carter of Mars series in the works for Disney Plus. Now, this is a story that has my attention, and if we take a look at the publication that it came through, it's Small Screen, and the journalist would be one Edward Lauder. So, Edward, can you take us through the story?
Yes. So basically, this is something that I was told actually quite some time ago, and I was like, okay, I'll sit on it for a while. And then I was just, then the person kept on coming back to me saying, no, we are. This is definitely going ahead. So I went with John Carter of Mars in the title because that's just SEO. It's looking more like it's going to be an adaptation of the Barsoom novels.
Good, that's how it should be.
Yeah, which is what the John Carter is part of. So it started with the Princess of Mars, wasn't it? And that was the first one. So my knowledge of the stories is actually very limited. But it was something that I was interested in because I do see the potential in a series, and obviously Disney does as well because they still have the IP. Even though technically the IP is now, I think it's actually technically part of public. It's like a public domain now. The books are anyway because they're written a long time ago. But
the books
Disney,
are public domain.
Yeah.
But in order to create new original works and adaptations based off them, there's some hoops to jump through there.
There are some,
exactly like the Conan situation.
Exactly. And what they really want to do is that they see a vast potential in having a John Carter of Mars series on Disney Plus. They basically see it as kind of their answer to The Witcher in a weird way, like kind of sword and sorcery type stuff, and a bit of science fiction in there as well. It's a science fiction tale, really. It's like the thing, if you don't know John Carter of Mars, it's the thing that kind of inspired kind of to a certain degree, Star Wars and all the science fiction stuff that came after that. So it's a big deal. It's like I was told to begin with, I'll be honest with you, I was told to begin with that they're going to do a reboot, so a movie. And then I was like, okay, well, all right, fine. I didn't run it because I hadn't worked with the person before. But then after a while, then it was different people coming to me telling me the same thing. And then it kind of, it ended up being the same thing coming out, was that it was going to be a TV series on Disney Plus, and it was going to be adapting Barsoom, the novels. So I think it's cool. I think it's a good idea. If they get it right, then it's something that I think could really, really work. And it's something that's not really on offer on Disney Plus.
Yeah, no, this is very true. Do you have any kind of time perspective or idea of how far in development this is? Is it an idea stage, or do they have a showrunner?
It's in early development at the moment. There's no showrunner attached to it. They have got writers writing it, so that's as far as it's gone. So this does happen quite a lot. They often get spec people to come in and write spec things behind it. I was asking if there was if someone like Andrew Stanton was involved in it, and apparently not. So he's nowhere near the project, which you might be happy to hear, Andre. But it's something that they're working on internally, and they're getting people to write scripts for it and seeing if it can work is for scripts for a series. So
okay.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty early in development, and I've since seen other people claiming the same thing. So might be people with the same contacts. I don't know, but seems to be happening.
Well, that's very, very cool, and I do hope that they will get like the sword and sorcery vibe better than they did in the movie, because parts of it was very, very good, but other parts I felt were extremely wrong. My big issue is that this is something that has no business being on Disney Plus in the first place.
That's my biggest concern.
Disney Plus is the wrong place for the Barsoom stories. That actually is something that would be a better fit with both Netflix and HBO Max. Maybe more so HBO Max.
But remember that Disney Plus now is not just Disney Plus. They also have Star in
that would be the hope if they could develop it for Star. That
in the US though, they still haven't done the adult equivalent yet. I mean, we have Hulu, but Hulu it's still very disconnected from Disney though. Outside unless you get it packaged together.
Yeah.
So if this were to be for Hulu in the US and Star everywhere else, then my concerns would be instantly alleviated a great deal compared to what they are right now.
And I got this gut feeling that Disney is in some way, shape, or form trying to either sabotage Hulu or do something, because I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah,
I mean, they might be trying to do something to Hulu. Yeah. They might just try and bring it all in internally.
Well, the problem is Universal owns part of it.
Yeah.
And Hypergiver too, he brings up a part of the problem right here. If Deja Thoris is not scantily clad and hotter than hell, no dice. This is one of the issues with it being on Disney Plus, because if they think that it's even possible to turn the Barsoom stories into some kind of 4-quadrant Star Wars like thing, well, I guess it can be done, but it is severely misunderstanding why it is popular today, because like that imagery of fantasy and sword and sorcery from the 70s, from the comics and everything like that, the Frazetta art with big, strong, bulgy men and hotter than hell women. That's kind of what Barsoom stories need to look like.
Yeah.
And I do not know if they're going to allow that on Disney Plus. And if they're not, then I also don't know that Disney Plus is the right venue.
Disney. I suppose Disney Plus wouldn't be the right venue for something like that, and that's probably why. I mean, Hulu and Star might be the best place for it. Like Disney have just released MODOK, which is a very adult themed kind of TV show, Marvel-based TV show. That's on Star. So I'd imagine that they do the same thing with this.
Yeah, it's on Hulu.
I mean, so it's something I could go back to and could ask about. But it's I was told it was being made for Disney Plus. Now they didn't specify that it was going to be Star or not. It was just a TV show that was being made internally at Disney.
My guess is it'd be Disney Plus. But we also have a little bit of spice to add to this stream. We've got the one, the only Paulie from Latino Slant Midnight's Edge Espanol, and our good buddy, a member of the crew. How you doing this morning?
Good morning. Good day. Hey, Edward. How are you?
Hey,
welcome. Well. And Edward, meet Paulie, Edward.
Hey.
Hey, nice to meet you.
You too. You know, Tom, I would expect you to be in a better mood after you had some good Mexican food yesterday.
That was good. I want more now. I'm hungry. Don't remind me.
And I've been listening to you, and you're like crapping on everything.
Well, I'm waiting to get to the story I really want to talk about.
But
it's only going to be for like 5 minutes, but I'm kind of glad you're here for it. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Cool. And what's up, boss?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. And now we got so many fine gentlemen here, so it's excellent. Before we get into the topic that Tom really wants to talk about, we have a couple of others. But before then, Prince Andrew says there was a Tracy Lords Barsoom. A friend told me about it. Honest. Yes, this is true. This is true.
Where can I find this?
There was a Tracy Lords Parsoom, but Tom, you might want to curb your enthusiasm.
Is
It's
it one
not
of those
quite
ones
what
that she
you
wasn't
think.
supposed to make?
That I know nothing about. But what I will say is that actually the very first adaptation that was attempted of the Princess of Mars story was way back in 1931, 32, 33. It was something that Universal were developing as an animation around the same time that Disney was developing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But they pulled the plug on it. They decided that it would be too expensive. But the test footage exists, and it's out there on YouTube, and it's very clear that we all missed out because of it. That was the first attempt. The first one that actually happened, the very first adaptation of Princess of Mars, came from Asylum Productions. So no, it's not that kind of movie, even if it has Tracy Lords. But it was an Asylum movie that adapted the story fairly faithfully. They just changed it to modern times, and in it they have Tracy Lords in a fully clothed role as the princess, a few years before Disney's John Carter of Mars.
I mean, you talk about false advertising there.
Exactly, right? That's what I'm saying, Paulie. But Edward, we ain't got you for too much longer here. I know Andre probably had a few more things he wanted to pick your brain about. So was there anything more you wanted to touch on the John Carter business here, Andre? Or?
Yeah, no, I think we are good. I was hoping to cover some Sandman as well, but Edward, I know that you have to be out. So with that, I just want to thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. It's been really cool.
Hey, Edward,
and yeah,
before you split, any news on the Shyamalan movie? The trailer just came out this morning.
The trailer was really cool. Yeah,
right?
I really, really liked the trailer. The trailer was really good. So I'm excited for this film. Actually, we're doing. My producer might be really pissed off with me for announcing this, but we are doing a history of Shyamalan, which is coming out on our channel in that'll be a month away probably. It's a big one. We're planning a big one. It's going to be fun. So we're actually announcing that tonight on another stream that I'm doing, which is actually I'm going to have to head over to that almost immediately over on small screen. So yeah, it's going to be that film is going to be really good. I'm a big Shyamalan fan.
Same here, yes. And I will. I need to subscribe to you right now.
Yeah, and to anyone that wants to check that out, we have, of course, all the relevant links to Small Screen and to Edward's channel in the description of this video. So just head on over there, subscribe to Small Screen on YouTube, and of course check in on Small Screen Co UK for regular scoops and updates in the world of genre entertainment.
Thank you so much, Andre. It's been an absolute pleasure. I have to have you on my show at some point, you guys.
Oh yeah, Billy liked to. We'd love to have you back as well, and when we have more breaking news, and also when we cover your scoops. Who better to go to than the source himself? And just before you pop out, let us also introduce you to our esteemed colleague Lorena Creole.
Hello.
Oh,
Speaking
hello,
of spice,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, so another individual we hope you get to know a little bit more as you hang around us. She is definitely somebody who knows the ins and outs of the industry.
Awesome.
We're glad to have to be a part of our crew. So yeah, Lorena, meet Edward. Lorena.
I'm sorry, I couldn't stay around for longer.
It's all right. It's all right. We'll have to connect.
Yeah.
That's why we're lucky enough to have this wonderful crew to come in and tag team as we lose our main guest.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
No, that's all right. It happens. These shows tend to go a little longer than we try to plan them, but that's just how the news rolls.
It's a fun story that we when we first came up with this series, Midnight's Edge in the Morning, our intention was for each show to be less than 1 hour for rewatchability.
Yeah, it never works.
No, I think we were very rarely were under 3 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, our streams do. I think we are able to get them to an hour now, but that's just because I'm like after an hour. I do my streams at like 11 o'clock at night here in France, so it gets a bit much being up at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I know the feeling. We're in the same time zone, you and I. So.
Yes,
wow.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on, and I'll be sure to see you guys very soon. And yeah, check out Small Screen at Small Screen Co on Twitter. So you can find all the links there. Cheers, guys.
Right.
Just did it, brother.
Take care. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. Bye.
Bye. All right, excellent. So, Polly and Lorena, how are you?
Hey, doing good, doing good. Hey, gentlemen.
Oh, there we go. I'm trying to get a high five to her.
Yeah.
There, I see.
Sorry,
I
always.
see.
There we go. There we go. Okay. There we go.
How you doing, sweetie?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Polly?
Good. Nice, crazy Friday.
I know it's been nuts. Actually, this is a good day to catch me since officially work has dismissed for the Memorial Day holiday. So they gave us early dismissal. So
nice, very nice.
So that means you don't have to run away from us right away.
You don't have to leave after lunch break.
Oh, and I see we got Nina in the chat too. I'll send her the link if she wants to come in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Nina.
Go for it.
Okay, but anyway, I know we had a couple super chats. We could probably catch up on a few of those. And wasn't there some other news stories
up already? But in the meantime, I think we can go roll with the story that I know that you are really excited about, and that you're really excited about running here.
Yesterday, I about pissed myself because I knew this was coming. Did not expect it to drop like it did, and of course, I would love to share the video, but I can't because they'll claim us. But I'll grab a shot of it here. For those who don't know. He's back. Can I do it, Andre? Can I please do it? Please.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, I've been waiting to do this. This feels so good.
I fucking knew it. Oh!
What did you know? What did
Terry
you know,
was
Tom?
coming back.
What did you know?
Tom has been, I don't know, wondering. Tom has been saying that this guy, Terry Silver, he's gonna be back, and he's been saying that since the very first roundtable we did on Cobra Kai, way back since the release of the first season on YouTube Red. That's for how long Tom has been saying that Terry Silver had to be there, and it makes complete sense because this is something that I also that like bugged me a little bit. Like, how can Johnny Lawrence just take the name Cobra Kai? He doesn't own it, and the Martin Kov character, he doesn't own it either. This guy does.
Yep. Well, technically, he did. He owns it with Martin Kov's character, and there's another person who also has.
What's the name of Martin Kov's character?
Yeah, and there's also another character who has a piece of Cobra Kai that I'm sure will either be mentioned or brought in as well, and that is Mike Barnes, the bad boy of karate, because his deal was he got 50% if he won, but he got I think it was 25 or 30% even if he didn't. So he's another part of this still yet too. So, I can't wait. This is it.
Yep. Some good news, man.
And I don't give a shit what anybody says. I fucking love Terry Silver. I don't care how cheesy he was. He was exactly what we needed for that movie, because how much farther could you go than what Kreese was? You needed somebody crazier than Kreese.
And that's what excites me about this. It's like, if you think Kreese was nuts, this guy,
he's
whole nother level. I saw the announcement yesterday and I was just like freaking out. I was so excited.
Well, the big question was, were they going to get him to do it? Because he's kind of dipped away from the industry a little bit. I think he's gotten more into writing and a few other things. So, and he'd been made fun of for this character for years. He deserves this redemption. Of anybody in the Karate Kid universe more than possibly Hillary Swank deserves some kind of redemption, it's Terry fucking Silver. And
I deserve redemption for watching the next Karate Kid. How about that?
That could be true, Paulie. I'm not going to argue with you on that point.
The only cool part about Karate Kid 4 was when she was trying to jump from rock to rock.
I was going to say the monk bit when she's at the monastery. I love that whole thing's great. Yeah.
But then they kind of ruin it when they come into town.
The final fight is horrid.
I did not watch that one. I said no.
It's half a good movie and then it goes to shit. It's just like they didn't know how to end it. Like that was the problem, I think. But that's a whole nother discussion. But no, I'm really excited for season 4. I know a lot of people are.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, Script Doctor, I've been saying that for a while, that I'm sure they're going to bring Swank in at some point too. And I've even, there was like the one point where when Daniel's teaching the kids the balance thing in the pond, and he's like, it's been a long time since there's been 2 students in this dojo.
Right.
And so that I think was setting something up there. That tells me that he had to have been trained at some point with her character. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting. And I know, Andre, you had fallen out of Cobra Kai and then you came back into it. And we just recently, caught up with the 3rd season here. So yeah, I don't know how excited you are, but I know Paulie and I, we've really been into the show, and I know Lorena, you're a fan as well, and yeah, so I want to get your guys' takes on Terry Silver coming back.
Well, I can begin. I will just say that I'm not too familiar. Like, I've seen Karate Kid 2 and 3, like I flicked past them. But I thought it was fantastic that they brought back like the villain in the Karate Kid 2 in season 3.
Chosen.
I thought that was absolutely fantastic, or just like in principle, because it's really respecting everything that came before. And also on that note, like everything is canon, everything is treated with respect. I think that's perfect, and that makes me want to see the season even more than I already did. And also, Cobra Kai is the best TV series I've seen in years. I look forward to it anyway. So yeah, awesome. Perfect thumbs up. Makes me even more excited than I already was. Lorena?
Yeah.
I loved this series. When it first came out, I was very skeptical, because I thought, why the heck do I want to see Karate Kid rehashed, all over again? And then word got out. It's just like, no, they flipped the script on this. So within the first episode of season 1, I was hooked. And it seemed every season things got better and better. Season 3 was good. I still think season 2 was better, but season 3, I wasn't let down. And the big thing that I liked about season 3 was seeing insights into what made Kreese who he is, and getting to see the bits of that, like episode by episode by episode. I'm thinking, okay, what is this going to lead into? What's going to be, the payoff? So to hear that Terry Silver is returning, that makes me even more excited. So that kind of shows where that leads to. But this is, I haven't been excited about a television series in a long time. And watching Cobra Kai, it's like I never got seriously bored. I was just blown away by the show itself, and just how much that the show was able to make Daniel the bad guy and Johnny the good guy, so to speak. I know it's being simplistic, but the writing was so good, you bought into how those roles got reversed. So I cannot wait for season 4 to pop off. I so hope they don't screw it up. I so hope it does not go woke. I just hope that they stick to the good storytelling, to what they've built up in the first 3 seasons.
Paulie?
Yeah, we showed the posters in Midnight Edge Espanol yesterday morning. If you missed that, please catch it. And
pissed I missed it. Sorry about that.
Geek Tropology totally threw me for a curveball when he brought up that the family was Ecuadorian. I mean, listen, I'm excited as well. I don't want to keep repeating what y'all have repeated. That Miguel's family is from Ecuador. I'm like, yeah. It's like, well, they all have different accents when they speak Spanish to each other, and one's Dominican. Well, and it reminded me of the Wocosos that hold the keys to the Hollywood entrance for real authenticity. And it just doesn't end. It just doesn't end. And yes, they're good actors, cool, but one of them is not even a Latino. And and does that matter? You know what? I'm the Latino slant. It freaking matters. So, when I found out this information yesterday, I was floored. This day and time, it's like you got this prominent, subplot of this awesome show, and we can't get it right. Hollywood cannot get it right. And I'm just talking about on a, and this is the shit that I'm talking about, where it's like, that's why Wocosos are created out of this bullshit. And excuse my language, but it's like, all right, did you go for the best actor? Or what was really going on with that casting situation?
I will say this, Paulie. I mean, you have every right to be upset, especially with the way that they virtue signal in Hollywood. Like, yeah, they should be paying more attention to this. The one thing I will say about Cobra Kai, though, was when they first made this show, when it first came about, it was kind of outside. It was YouTube's first scripted series that they were doing for their channel, and it didn't really take off until it got moved to Netflix. Like, for the longest time, Cobra Kai was like this little secret thing that just a few of us knew about, and we were trying to tell people about, and it didn't feel like it was part of the Hollywood system. And again, I'm not making excuses for them, but that may well be it, is that they just picked the best actor for the role at that time, and they weren't thinking about that. But now that they're on the center stage and they've got a big spotlight on them, that was one of my biggest fears that I brought up, is now that they're going to get a lot of notes. So, I mean, I hope it's more about the actual actor and not the other way around. But I know you're right, Paulie, to be completely upset about that, because if you're going to virtue signal and you're going to stand on all these, fucking people's backs and try to say, hey, look what we're doing, at least do it right. You're right. I totally get where you're coming from.
Well, I have a question. Who of those three that you mentioned is not Latino?
The grandmother.
Interesting.
She's great.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Again, that's not my point.
No, I get what you're saying.
I was just curious because you brought it up.
Yeah.
If
there's an Asian family or an African American family.
No, you're 100% right.
Or a ginger family. It's like, yeah, I'm excited. I'm the big fan. It's probably after season 4, we should wrap it up in a bow. I think it's, fantastic show. And, Latinos do. Someone said Latinos don't do martial arts. And, I don't know what that means. The Latinos have done martial arts for, that's not my point. My point is,
who
that
the hell said that?
No, it's just someone in the chat.
Okay.
If you're gonna, like you guys said, we virtue signal or I don't know what, then just be correct, guys. Or why even have it? And I really love Miguel. I love the actor. I love Zabka. I love everything about this show. I love that men can teach their sons, or try to be good fathers, or trying to be good role models. I mean, just the whole thing of it's handed down from Miyagi to Danielson, and now to Johnny. It's a fantastic show. I love that. I still have. Excuse me, Tom. I still have. Sorry, man.
I'm trying to latch on to what point you're making here, Paulie.
I still have young men who when I trained, they were little kids. I still have them reach out to me, Professor Paul, you're great, and I'm still doing this, I'm still doing that. It's a bond. It's amazing that we don't have that in a lot of television shows right now. And I love that Cobra Kai does that. You know, I love that, you know, and I hope as well with what Lorena said, I hope they don't screw that up. I hope it doesn't become anything more than that.
Well, and again, back to the point I was saying, I mean, I guess in the defense of the show, in a way, the thing was, as we've always pointed out, Paulie, you know, Xolo is the star of the show, basically, as far as the young cast. I mean, he's the new Karate Kid. We've brought that up a couple times. And if the show wanted to virtue signal on its casting, they could have done it already a million times over, because it's a very diverse cast. And not one point have I seen anybody bringing up, you know, or standing on their cast saying, look what we did, look what we got. In fact, it didn't even get it pointed out until it came to Netflix, and then it was, Cobra Kai's so white. And that was just because Johnny was the star of the show, you know, and and then we rightfully pointed out, like, hey, you're overlooking the fact that, you know, what the new Karate Kid is Xolo. It's not, you know, a white kid. You know, let's be real here. Not only that, the rest of this cast is very diverse. It's surrounding, you know, like you just brought up, this Latino family, and it has all these other families involved. And not just that, it's, you know, boys and girls. So it does it well, and it doesn't do it in a way that's like preaching to you. And I think that's, at least in defense of the show, and I think that's where they just picked the best actors for the job at the time. And I don't think they were thinking about it from that angle. But it is a very important thing to keep in mind, especially if you're going to stand on all these, you know, diversity fucking virtue signals like Discovery does all the time and stuff like that.
Well, let me ask this, because I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Paulie, is your point that we'll say the Latino casting, so to speak, or what they're trying to portray, is that it is not authentic?
There's two levels, right? There's two levels for me, right?
Okay.
For me, is that the family is speaking different dialects of Spanish to each other when they do, so it sounds kind of funky, right? And then one is not even a Latino actor. And I don't care what you call it in the chat. I really don't. If you call me social justice, this and that, there is not a level playing field, right? That's all I'm asking. That's all, you know, the show's excuse me, but my show is called Latino Slant for a reason. It's to just enlighten and entertain, right? But there's not a level playing field here. And then when there's crumbs, do it correct. Don't do it at all. That's just my opinion. And that's just it. And I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you.
No, because here's where my disconnect is. Here's a little bit where my disconnect is. And it mostly just has to do with cultural standpoint from my background. There's plenty of families that have been around where it is a Latino family. We'll say mixed white Latino, black Latino. The mother may be Dominican and dark. The father may be Cuban. The dialect spoken of Spanish may be different. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, I guess for you, if they're from the same hold, that they're supposed to be speaking the same accent, or is it something different behind that? I'm just asking because me on the outside looking in, I'm used to hearing that where there's a classical Latino household, but the dialects are different and I can pick them up. Like I can tell if somebody's from Puerto Rico, I can tell if somebody's from Cuba, I can tell if somebody's, from the Dominican Republic just by how they speak.
Yeah. So in the story, in the way it's written, and I will give you this, like it may seem I'm nitpicking because it's so minor compared to how great this show is, but from my perspective, it's important, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I love it when there's great portrayals and it's organic within the script, within the story. Now, they said that this is an immigrant family from Ecuador. So the grandmother and the mother are going to be somewhat cohesive about, the Spanish and the dialect being the same. The son, Miguel, is just going to be Americanized, but he'll speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. In this case, it's not a multi Latino family, and we don't know where the dad is, and maybe the dad will show up because they were theorizing.
They have built that up, haven't they? That the dad is some kind of criminal or something, so suddenly he may show up. I'd honestly be surprised if he didn't, because they have planted that seed that he's a bad dude. And
he's a bad actor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so they escaped from him. If they had no intention of bringing him in, he would have been dead. But
this goes in a lot of film that I've watched over the last couple of decades, where a great performance is being done by who I know, someone who's not a Latino playing a Chicano in Training Day, just a great performance, and then he says the word incorrectly. I'm just like, oh.
And that takes you out of the authenticity of the experience.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm trying to get at.
Right. And because it was so funny, because we rewatched Training Day a couple of weeks ago, me and Romy, and she's, nah, man. She's like, no, he does a great job. I'm like, he is great. But watch when he says, these couple of lines, and we're watching. She's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I get that, because when I watch something and they'll say like it's set in say maybe Cuba or it's set in Colombia, and I'm listening to the person talking, I'm like, that's a Puerto Rican accent. That takes you out of the experience. So I get exactly where you're coming. I just wanted to clarify for some folks who might bring that point up.
Well, and the thing is that I know there's such a knee-jerk reaction when you even say or even approach the word representation. I mean, that's with people in the chat or whoever, that's your opinion. Representation shouldn't matter. They should cast the best actors.
Yeah, it's a matter of being authentic, right?
But
exactly.
But there will
consistent.
But there's so many stories that Romy will tell you where that is thrown out of the window. That the best actor that'll get the role, they can't cast because they have a mandate. So here, in my opinion, the mandate is just upside down, because there was no authenticity checked. Like, there was no one there to check it. Just as that really bad TV show that had the Zoot Suiters in it, the Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, right? Obviously, to me, the lead Pachuco guy was from the East Coast, was Puerto Rican. It was in the way he talked. It's a different energy and cadence.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So there were certain words, that he just couldn't stick, like an OG Edward James almost. You have this lavish production, this big ass production. Where's someone to check that? That's all. And I'm not asking for much. Anyways.
Yeah, I get your point with that, because if I'm watching something, you tell me in the storytelling that this family comes from a particular country, like it's not a multinational household with different Latino backgrounds. If you tell me that, granted, if I don't know, I'm probably not going to pick that up, but people who can zoom in on that, that's going to take them out of the experience. So I don't know if they made the trade-off from and I'll put this out here, nobody's going to pay attention to that. I bet you that's somebody who said that and they went with it. And that's unfortunate, because for some people that may seem like a nitpick, but you know what? It's real to some folks. So please don't discount that. So going back to representation, because I like to say that, when people say representation, please don't have a knee-jerk reaction to that. Listen to what the person has to say, because what may seem inconsequential to you may seem very consequential to someone else.
The last Latino actor, we'll just say Latino actor,
General, the bucket.
Well, it's like no matter what, you're offending someone. So I'm just going to say it, right?
Yeah.
The last Latino actor to win an Academy Award, which is almost 20 years ago, did it by playing a wonderful fucking performance, excuse my language, of a Tijuana cop, a good-hearted Tijuana cop in the movie Traffic. I could hear his Philadelphia Puerto Rican accent throughout the whole time. Man. And did I care? No, not really. I mean, it just
you got a point.
And then his partner, played by Jacob Vargas, is a Chicano from LA. I could tell.
It's not, yeah.
Well, no, and this goes back to a point we were making before, Polly. We had talked about before, where they're talking about Oscar So White and all this representation stuff, but they're neglecting the fact that, and this is one of the reasons why Midnight's Edge Espanol exists, that there is a larger portion of when you get into non-white audience, the biggest portion is the Latino audience, and they're neglected, heavily neglected. And we brought that up over time and time again about in every avenue. And, you know, when you talk about, you know, even though Taylor Hackford, there could be an argument made when he said, you know, La Bamba is still the most successful Latino movie out there. I mean, there could be arguments made for some other ones, but he's almost right. You know, when you boil it down, he is pretty much right. I mean, that's the sad part, and that needs to change. But I don't mean to switch gears on you here, Paul. But somebody
I kind of hijacked, and I apologize.
It's a good discussion.
Well, because we all know we're excited about you know, Cobra Kai, and then just again, Geek Tropology threw this at me yesterday in Spanish. I was like, oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, anyway. I caught the end of it. But by the time I got on the show, you guys hadn't talked about it, and I didn't really want to get into it anymore. But I do feel in this case, as far as the people behind Cobra Kai, I do not think that they were that was even part of their thinking at all. I
think it was a simple matter of they didn't have anyone on set or in the casting agency or anything that even thought about making that. Probably like the casting, like the casting responsible decided that okay, it looks closely enough resembled. And
I just don't even think that was
talent, and ends with that, and then they probably decide that they speak Spanish, and Spanish is Spanish, which of course is completely incorrect because you have all the local varieties. But again, that's if you have casting a person that isn't aware of it, then it's going to end there.
Andre, here's what Romy hears all the time: we're casting a wide net.
Yeah, exactly.
That means they can do whatever they want.
Too. Yeah.
Well, I was just pointing out, like, I think Cobra Kai initially was made outside the purview of Hollywood, so I really don't feel like they were like trying to like. That was my whole point. Is I don't think they're like being like a lot of these other shows with the virtue signaling. But I want to talk about this here. We got Netflix. Was the one that was willing to take a chance. This Tim Miller thing. That isn't even the bit I want to talk about. The dumb shit. Who we've learned now that Tim Miller is just that. Like, it was a fluke that this fucker had anything to do with Deadpool at this point, I think. Because the idiot goes on to say that Deadpool could still be Deadpool if it was not R-rated, as long as it was Ryan Reynolds. Where he's not completely wrong on that, but I think Once Upon a Deadpool proves that point wrong. So this has got to be one of the most tone-deaf statements I've ever heard in my life, because that fucking thing failed horribly and miserably at the box office for one reason only, and that was nobody had any desire to see a PG-13 Deadpool. Did you? Did anybody?
No, no. If I'm going to see a Deadpool movie, I expect to hear off-color jokes and a lot of killing, a lot of very explicit killing going on. That's what I expect to see. I can't see them doing that in a PG-13 and me being interested in watching it. And people who I know who love the first Deadpool movie because it was rated R, I can't see them going to see it.
Now, Andre, I know you're just in love with Tim Miller lately, because he's somebody who we've come across with Dark Fate.
Oh yeah, this only goes to show that Deadpool was probably a fluke with him. He brought some visual flair, but the understanding is probably more on the Ryan Reynolds side. First of all, the whole MPAA thing and the whole like rated R and PG-13 and the distinction between them, I think that's completely hopeless in the first place. But that aside, there are things that you can do inside PG-13, but there are also some things you can't do. And it's those things that make Deadpool into Deadpool. So as I responded to Lorena, who first made me aware of this on Twitter, I was like, PG-13 Deadpool? Yeah, no. We tried that already. We tried the PG-13 cut of Deadpool Part 2. And you know what is the better cut? It's the extended, extra R-rated cut. That's the go-to version.
I actually agree with you because it has less time with that damn kid.
I didn't like that kid.
I know. I didn't meet too many people who did. I'm like, the movie was okay, but that kid drags it the fuck down.
Yeah, he does. I'm like, are we supposed to sympathize with him? Because like, I didn't.
Don't.
No, I thought he was gonna like blow up or something, and he was only in the first maybe 10 or 15 minutes or something.
And I don't know if I don't think it's the actor's fault, because I groaned when I saw him in Godzilla. But then in Godzilla, it was like, yeah, he's there. He didn't really bother me as much, so it's got to be.
Yeah, it was definitely the writing. It just seemed like they were trying to shove this kid down our throats.
Yeah, they were trying to make him like sassy and all that kind of stuff. It just wasn't.
He was the problem with Deadpool 2. This is what I would say. The thing that worked with it, of course, was like everything to do with the rating. That is what did work.
No, like Sith Court. This was what I said during our review. If Andre remembers, I said I wanted Cable to catch that fucking kid.
I did too, and I kept getting mad every time he could. Oh. I know that sounds awful.
I know it sounds horrible, but like
it was true.
It is true. It is, and maybe it was because they should have casted him younger. They picked the wrong age on top of it. Like maybe that was the other problem. Is it's very difficult to sympathize with a teenager. You know what I mean?
I agree completely.
It's a very big problem.
He had like the wrong age, the wrong look, a little bit wrong of everything.
Yeah.
To gain your sympathy, it's like. Yeah, I think the
joke
only way that
worked
you
better if it had been like a little 4 or 5 year old kid. You know what I mean? Like, it would have worked much better, because then you'd had Cable, and you're just like, why would Cable want to kill this kid? Like you're in the movie, you're like, I understand why Cable wants to kill this kid.
He's a jerk. It'd be different if he was like some little skinny kid who was getting bullied all the time. I could kind of deal with that, but this is just a
Or even like a better yet, I'll give you a better example of, you could still keep it a little fat kid. The kid from Bad Santa.
Oh shoot.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Because you feel sorry for that kid through that whole fucking movie.
He was so sorry.
He's so loyal to fucking what's his face? I just forgot his name.
Shoot, I'm
the guy from Bad Santa. You know who I'm talking
about.
Yeah,
I know exactly who you're talking about. Angelina Jolie's
ex-husband. Yeah, I was just gonna say that myself. But yeah, he's so loyal to him. You feel so sorry for that kid through the whole movie. And even in the second movie, when he's grown up, you still feel sorry for him, because you remember that little poor bastard following him around. It's like, that's what they needed for this. Billy Bob Thornton, thank you guys. That's what they needed this kid to be in this movie. That's what they needed. Oh, I wouldn't call him that, Dr. Coffin-Nails, but he was just, he was introverted, and he needed an adult, a male figure, and Billy Bob wasn't
socially awkward, lived with his grandma,
Exactly. You needed this socially awkward kid, not this annoying little shithead, basically. Yeah. Sorry, I went on a tangent there, but you guys know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, no, I think.
And then my next scary question is, because does this motherfucker got something to do with the heavy metal series coming up? Because if he does, we're in trouble. Oh Lord.
I don't know exactly who's involved with that. Like, who knows?
I know we've heard some names. We can't really talk much about names, it. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know anything about that part. But I didn't get to read this article yet. I just grabbed it because I knew about the quote. I was even looking for that in there about Deadpool being PG-13. But I pretty much said it the way he said it, from the way I remember seeing it.
Oh, is that the news that it's PG? I haven't.
No. Well, he's talking about a bunch of crap.
No, but I saw it like trending. So, I mean, is that like the new news in general?
Yeah. Well, he said something about you can do Deadpool as PG-13 as long as it's Ryan Reynolds. And yeah,
and I disagree with that.
See right here.
Like, why would you want that? No, because then you have shackled Ryan Reynolds. Like, can you do it? Yeah, of course you can do it, but you can't do it and have it be good. You can't do it and have it be the Deadpool that the audiences have come to love and expect. That you can't do.
And I mean, yeah, I know in the comics he's not R-rated, but like Script said, they do as much as they can to cleverly get around that. The point of being in a film is you don't have to. You know, you don't have the same kind of, you know, problems you have with comic books. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, haven't they done R-rated Deadpool comics though? I think I have one somewhere.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, when you say R-rated, they can get away with a lot of things in the Deadpool comics. I mean, like in Deadpool Max, you did like 2 Max miniseries. You can do pretty much anything there.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. It is in a lot of ways. You take away his ability, and yeah, Sith Court said it right here. Deadpool is not supposed to be shackled. That's the entire point.
That's right. I mean, did you see the sorry, Tom, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but do you remember the advertising for Deadpool? Like they were literally had advertisements that said, you know, parents, please don't take your kids to see this movie.
Deadpool and Deadpool 2 single-handedly had probably the best ad campaigns of all times that never showed jack shit from the movies.
Yeah, it was freaking fabulous. They were like, we know your kids like Marvel heroes. This is not the movie you want to take them to.
And no, all my point was going to be is the only time you can get away with pulling Deadpool into a PG-13 world and it working is when you pull him into like an Avengers or a Spider-Man. And you can only get away with that for so long because it's not his movie then. So he can kind of fit in there and be like, you know, all of a sudden he tries to say something and it's like comes out filth, flarm, filth. And he's like, what's going on here? And then he looks at the camera and goes, oh yeah, PG-13, you know, and you just play with that joke for the rest of the film, but it's only going to work for one movie. You know what I mean?
And it's only going to work for a movie in which he's the guest character.
Exactly my point. Yes, you can't do that for a continuum. Yeah, exactly. It's only
like a strategically placed cameo, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, like I said, you can bring him into a Spider-Man movie or something like that, but he can't. You can't keep doing that. And then, and I think even Kevin Feige's smart enough to know that, and I think that's why he's really been quick to say, "Oh no, we're not planning on changing Deadpool."
Yeah, but he might say it, but it's easy enough to say it years in advance of any Deadpool actually coming out.
That's true.
Words are cheap. It's very, very easy to
You tell me that Once Upon a Deadpool was not a fucking litmus test to see if people wouldn't go see a PG-13 Deadpool.
Of course it was. Of course it was. And
it failed miserably.
It failed. Yeah. Which indeed it should. And I do hope that if they try for a PG-13 Deadpool, that the audience is rejected out of principle.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm going to get into more of this article at a later time. I just wanted to bring up the Deadpool point right now because I knew Andre would love that. I didn't even know he was aware of it until now, but of course Lorena would be on top of that. But yeah,
of course.
So what do we got for some super chats though? Let's get on to those, and I don't know if there was any other
for super chats. We have who says, "I love John Carter. I want to see what they do with him and Deja Thoris with a great script." Yeah, let's just hope that there will be that. And Durao On sent us a €5 super chat with no message. Maybe it was redacted, but thank you for the support in any event. And Straight White Mage says Dr. Doom belongs in Doctor Strange 2. Yeah, let's hope that he shows up there. Like, really, he could have belonged in WandaVision as well, but can't have that, I guess. And also says, Deja Thoris is a goddess and should remain as such. I want them to make John Carter great too. Yeah, fingers crossed for that. But the whole Disney Plus thing, that has me a tiny little bit worried. And Doomed, says for $2, maybe Amazon will make Sly make more Rocky sequels. Yeah, they have MGM now, don't they? I would rather that they make him, Dolph Lundgren do some Drago spin-offs. But,
well, they're already kind of working on a few things, and I forgot to bring that up as one of their only other franchises that they still have any kind of attachment to. And the Creed movies are doing well for them, and there's been rumblings of another Rocky movie, and I think that's a plausibility because I don't think he's supposed to be in Creed 3. from the rumors I've been hearing.
Yeah, no, I've heard that as well. I've heard that as well. Of course.
Hey,
yo.
Tom, you know, you got a big mouth, you know that.
Yeah, you know what
Yeah,
they call
Paulie.
you
Hey,
back in the
Paulie.
in the
Hey, how you
neighborhood.
doing? How you doing, Lorena? How you doing?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to reconcile the South Philly accent.
Touche.
yeah.
Touche. I see
That
you.
was pretty
I
funny.
see what you did.
Yeah,
I
there
see
you
what you did there.
go.
You know,
We
no,
all
like
impersonated him. We
and
all
I've been hearing
impersonated
this, and I think if it's true, if they're not going to do like a flat out Rocky's fighting somebody movie, I hope Andre and I are right, and they're going to do a Drago spinoff. And
I'd watch that.
Ivan's like, yeah, I desperately need you, Rocky, to help me train my kid now, you know, because he's been training in the old way, and I need to retrain him, and that's kind of where they'll possibly go. That'd be great. I could be wrong.
That would be fun. That would be fantastic, or anything. Or it doesn't even have to have Rocky at all. Just to see them try to rebuild their life.
Agreed.
After basically, like, the father's life was completely ruined by his loss to Rocky in Rocky 4. And now it's about preventing the son from going down the same path. And both of them trying to seek redemption, maybe outside of boxing. That is a story that I would want to see.
Agreed.
Much more than I'd even want another Rocky movie.
But that's where I'm saying is like the only way I can see, because Rocky Balboa was one thing, but him coming back to the ring at this point, just I don't know. No. So like that's the only way I can see him fitting into this universe is still as the coach, and don't kill him. Don't you dare kill him. And because if you kill him in Creed 3, that is too much like Rocky 3.
That's true.
You know what I mean? That's you're really pushing it there.
I liked how he ended in 2. He went off into the sunset, hanging out with his dad, his son, and his grandkid. You know, leave him alone.
Yeah,
Creed.
I think that was a very good end for Rocky. I wouldn't.
Pretty decent
for Rocky,
for Rocky.
I mean, I have my issue is if you're not going to have him in Creed 3, then just do something like that. But don't. But Stallone said something about another Rocky film. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up.
I'd rather him do another Rambo.
And I hope that's just code. Well, that's not going to happen now. That was initially the plan, but since that movie didn't make any money. But no, I hope that him doing another Rocky movie and not being in Creed 3 is code for a Drago movie. I really do. I really hope that's the case.
Yeah.
That's me just, fingers crossed here, not knowing anything. So.
Indeed, fingers crossed. We're just gonna have to wait and see with
that.
But
they don't got anything. They have everything after 1986. And again, on Midnight's Edge Espanol yesterday, we did we looked at like from MGM before 1986. I mean, the catalog that they didn't get is awesome.
Well, there's some stuff that's still in the older stuff, but like the Wizard of Oz and stuff like that isn't. But I think that they still own the Rocky films and like the Pink Panther, which those were in the 70s and 60s, and the Bond films. But outside of that, like anything I think you're right.
Yeah. So Dirty Dozen, Children of the Dam.
Yeah.
The Tarzan stuff, man, it was crazy to look at.
Yeah, and I brought that up.
The Taylor movies that she won Best Academy Award for. I mean, there's always going to be an audience for those movies.
Well, that was because of the Ted Turner thing when he bought up a lot of the classics for Turner Classic Movies. And that's what I've said to people is like a lot of the movies that people associate that MGM logo with, they don't really own. Most of which being Wizard of Oz. So there you go.
Yeah, indeed. And then moving on with the super chats. Ray Young 74 says Cobra Kai sucks. Eagle Fang Dojo rules.
Eagle Fang.
Eagle Fang. Just
hey, I don't think eagles have fangs.
Eagles don't have fangs.
So shut up.
Bruh.
It's like, don't say the quiet part out loud. Just, roll.
Get it all over the nets, whatever you said.
Send it to the internet and put a hash brown on it. Put Back in Black on it. I don't think we own the rights to that. I got it in my car on tape.
And then Hat on a Hat says for $10, thank you so much. Paulie has a good point. My mom's from New York, and the boroughs have very distinct accents. I will absolutely notice if a character is supposed to be from the Bronx, but has a Brooklyn accent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a whole that's
true.
real. And then
Well,
Miami Latinos, Florida Latinos. I mean, it's pretty diverse. And then
Very
anything
different.
that's from a different country is a whole other onda. I mean, just listen to Geek Tropology or Diego talking English. It's like those are the guys. That's what Miguel's family should be sounding.
Yeah, but
like.
we were even just talking about coastal accents and shit here within the U.S. So, I mean, that could even be, But I not to change subject. I got to say my favorite Johnny Lawrence quote though. When the one kid's like, "I'm on the spectrum," he's like, "I don't know what that is, but get off it."
Oh,
I thought that was
first season.
fantastic.
That first season.
Yeah.
He just went after every SJW trope. It was just like
It was great.
It was
glorious.
fantastic.
I want to rewatch it.
And that's where I'm saying, Paulie, as far as your point, like I normally would I agree with you 100% and you're 100% right. Now we've even brought that point up a million times, but as far as Cobra Kai, I'm not making excuses for him, but I just really don't think that was even on their radar at that point. And they just casted that actress because she was the right person for the role at the time. And I really feel like now that they're under a spotlight, things might change in season 4, but I hope not.
Yeah, well, we shall see. I
know, Paulie. I know.
I feel you.
I feel you, brother. I do.
Let's move
totally
on.
do.
Yeah.
You're making me want more food anyway. I'm going to that taco place after we're done here just because of you now. Because you had to bring it up.
I mean, those photos you sent me of the food,
amazing.
Were they? One was flautas. The other dish nachos.
Are they flautas?
And nacho, yeah, just piled on nachos. Yeah, and authentic shit. Mexican family runs it.
Oh, I love flautas because I don't like
corn. It was a little hidden corner place. Didn't even know it existed. Yeah.
I couldn't tell if they're taquitos or flautas. They said flautas. Flautas even better.
They're a lot like taquitos, but yeah, they were flautas. Oh, they were great.
Flautas rock.
Today I might get a burrito the size of my head.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
And then we're going to go a little bit out of order, but I can bring a couple of super chats on screen. Sean the Movie Man 71 says, Andre, Tom, Latinos Land, and Lorena. Good morning, all you beautiful folks.
Hello.
So Amazon bought MGM so we can have a reimagined Rocky starring Demi Lovato. Yay!
I can't.
Yay! I love the game.
Oh no!
I was just gonna say I like Sean. He's we met him in the Popcorn Planet chats. I'm like, oh, Sean.
I do like his icon there from the Breakfast Club.
It's a good dude.
It's a good picture.
That's a great icon. Demi Lovato. Por Dios. Por
Dios.
Wait.
Hold up. What is this wizardry that Namcos is talking about here?
Mexican lasagna.
There's a thing called Mexican lasagna.
I've heard of it.
I was never told of it.
I've heard of it. I've never tried it.
I want to try it now.
I've heard of it.
Well, lasagna is already like nature's perfect food. So like
Namcos. I mean, is that like more of a regional, like Texas? Is that here in the States?
It's a Tex-Mex.
It's got to be a state.
It is with like the nachos and the seasoned beef and all of that, and it's in layers. So it's like lasagna, but made with like Tex-Mex.
Yeah, Tex-Mex style lasagna. No, that's actually funny. That's kind of like what we call the taco that we have here in Norway. Nurmex, because we don't have the Mexican taco, we have the Tex-Mex imported, and that has been changed a little bit more to be Nurmex.
That's fantastic.
For suited to Norwegian sensibilities and everything like that. But we can still get the proper Mexican one in restaurants.
I mean, Tom,
night and day different.
Tom should share those pictures of him with his food with his.
I don't know.
You had a Mexican
good
Coke?
looking. They might get hit for nudity because they're so yummy.
Oh, so yeah. Did you have a Mexican Coke? Was that in your hand?
Yeah, I had a Mexican Coke and I had a orange soda too.
Oh wow!
You look so happy in that damn photo.
Oh, it was good.
I'm so happy.
Well, you don't understand. I've been so sick of where I live here because there's nothing but just like fast food restaurants and really junky local restaurants for the most part. And I've been just dying to find like a little place like this, where it's home kind of cooking, like just pure, And it was just exactly what the doctor ordered. And I was just like, oh, and I ate fucking 6 of those little bastards.
Oh my God. Look at fake memes.
They're not as big as they probably looked in the picture. I'll probably grab the picture here.
Fake name, Tex-Mex cuisine mission statement. If you don't get explosive diarrhea, you're doing it wrong. Whoa. My stomach. Oh my God.
That's Taco Bell. Not real.
Yeah, food. That not if you make it from somebody's house.
Well, perfect. And then Durao On, who I just said sent an empty super chat, says, they censored me. I was talking about some people's beauty standard. Obviously in reference to what we said before about how Chinese audiences weren't too happy with the particular Chinese actors that had been cast in Shang-Chi, because they didn't quite conform to Chinese beauty standards. They were a little bit too Chinese looking for them.
Me gusta cantar riendo porque... Oh, what happened?
Yeah. And Durao On also says, bonsoir, Maren. And French is not one of the languages that I speak, so I completely botched that.
Says, good night, my queen.
Yeah, I know what it means. I just can't speak it.
Okay.
I can read a fair bit of French. Like that's one of the languages that I do understand fairly well when reading. I just can't speak it. It's never able to roll with the R in particular. I have to roll it, otherwise I'm really
I can't. That's like a Creole handicap. I took 5 years of French. If I go to New Orleans, I can hear the French spoken, but it's not like French from France.
Thanks, Polly. Now I'm hungry.
I sound Americanized.
No, like I can read French fairly fine, but speaking it, that's a completely different matter. So I understand what you're saying. I just can't say
the only French I know is merde.
Yeah, and you couldn't even pronounce that right.
Exactly my point. I can do a little bit of Pepe Le Pew. That's about it.
He didn't say that.
No, he didn't. But I mean, that's about as close as I can get.
If you hold your nose and try to speak French words, you can fake it really good. I found that out in French class. I had a stuffy nose, and my professor's like, "You can speak French much better today." I'm like, "My nose is stuffed." She says, "Oh, it sounds more nasal." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, all right."
Oh, well, then you have the secret.
Yeah.
Now, as close as I can get is my Pepe Le Pew impression. Yeah. It's just like, the moon is in the stars, and you are looking so perfect. That kind of shit like that.
Every little bee seems to whisper to me.
Yeah,
was that Philly or was it Philly French or?
Yeah, Philly French.
No, we don't. Nuh-uh.
There's one word I know in French, and it's like merde.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah. And Judah Khan says, Amazon's purchase of MGM concerns me about the fate of Stargate, but I'm glad that Brad Wright is still involved with the new show in development.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, well, he's not the only one. So that's the problem there. Let's see. And then William Santiago says, okay, for all who don't get it, remember when Kevin Costner was given crap for his horrible British accent?
Because I was one of the ones who did that. I couldn't watch that.
The part is when Carrie Elwes made fun of him and
Men in Tights.
And at least I can speak with the British accent.
Listen, we could go back to what we did with Mr. H Reviews, which was Scarface. And the big reason why Pacino was so great in that role, besides his acting, is that he didn't speak Spanish. He didn't speak Spanish, though. He didn't try to speak it.
Hey, look at the pelicans.
Hey, pelican. Fly pelican. Anyways.
Yeah. Then Etienne Falardeau says, John Boyega open to Star Wars return if Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams are involved. Entertainment Weekly. I can't
Really?
stop laughing.
Dude,
No.
take
Are
that Netflix
involved?
money and run. Just don't
Wait,
look
is
back.
that real?
Did
Is that
he
real, Lorena?
miswrite that? Did he mean aren't or are?
Nah, he probably says R or something. I
Because
don't know.
JJ I
but-
can understand. Kennedy, I'm not so sure about. Because I was going to talk about that. Because remember how, Cameron always talks about, follow the path of the stories.
Mhm.
After we've been talking about all this stuff, all of a sudden there's a new JJ story out there, just as I've been telling you, like that story was a few months back, trying to make him look like the good guy. And now he's like, yeah, we didn't have a plan. They threw it out. Like he's covering his ass like a motherfucker.
Yeah, of course he's covering his
Something
ass. And
is
here you
going
see other
down.
people are covering their ass as well, or like are making good and making sure that they stay on the right side.
Here's
of
the
certain
irony of this
people.
whole thing. I want to say like this: what if it boiled down to JJ could totally like either throw KK under the bus or make her look like the queen, right? In this case, what if the excuse he's giving everybody is the same excuse she gave everybody about Star Wars? KK's the past. We're looking to the future. We've got many more years ahead of us with J.J. Abrams. We could care less about Kathleen Kennedy at this point. She's old news. And that's the way they treated Star Wars. Remember, that was her mantra with Star Wars. What if that's the way Hollywood starts to look at her? And they start going, well, yeah, we're going to make nice with J.J. Abrams and all these other people involved because they've got a future in Hollywood.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking too. Because again, she's so old that her power is going to be diminished naturally, just as a consequence of that.
Exactly. I
Because
mean, she's on her way out. Let's be real. I mean, she's pushing what, 70 almost now or beyond that?
A little bit over 70.
I was gonna say like 72 or 3 or something like that.
She's in Hollywood years, she's a relic right now.
Oh God, yes.
Hey, it is what it is.
I can't argue that, man. I was gonna say something political, but I'm not gonna get political.
But that's politics, man.
I'm a political refugee, man.
I'm just keeping it real.
I told you,
No, you're right.
I'm
But I'm saying we know there's some older people in those higher, yeah.
Doesn't mean they don't know where all the bodies are buried, but just saying.
I told you, telling me it was in a sanitarium.
Sanitation.
But it also
They-
means
they-
it's time to like
Sanitation.
step back to a more behind the scenes
A
role.
sanitarium. What's a sanitarium?
Doesn't matter.
And Stephen Bauer is Latino, born Rocky Echeverria, Cuban.
Yeah, he helped Pacino. Not very well, but he helped Pacino.
And then we have Mr. Tickletrunk saying, I'm falling down the Google Images Mexican lasagna hole. Send help.
Send me the recipe then, Mr. Tickletrunk. We gotta figure this out.
Mr. Tickle Trunks, I understand. I make regular Italian lasagna, but Mexican lasagna just looks so beautiful, and there's so many ways to do it. Yeah, it's a rabbit hole for sure.
Well, and Bryant Barth asks, what are our thoughts on Scarface 1983? It's very interesting that you asked that. Isn't that right, Paulie?
Yeah, it's right now featured on my front page. We, me, Tom, and Mr. H Reviews did almost a 2-hour deep dive into Scarface 1983 from pre-production to scene by scene. We had a fantastic time. I mean, it's one of our favorite, gangster movies, period. For me, it gets better and better with age. And isn't that funny because of what I was talking about earlier in my Latino rant? Something like this could not have come out today without the cast not being Latino. That would just be crazy. But those actors are amazing, Tom.
Say hello to my little friend. I love, I always got my little statue hanging around here.
I've got back and watch that
movie.
It's on Netflix, Lena. They just put it on Netflix.
Oh, cool. I
just ordered I just ordered the 35th year anniversary, and it's got a retro, like the panel cast reunion, and some other stuff. So I'm excited for that.
Because Scarface is one of those movies I've never seen, but I need to
What?
see. I never sat down to watch it. I
Considering
had to watch The Godfather first. I did
Yeah,
that.
don't feel bad. I mean, we all have movies that everyone
That is
should
true.
should see that we
But see,
haven't.
that
So,
doesn't surprise me, Andre, because technically Scarface was in obscurity for many years. It was a flop when it came out. It had horrible reviews. And then it wasn't until the 90s that the hip hop community, VHS, had started picking up again. Wow.
Well, I'll tell you right now, you're gonna probably like it.
Well, I'd like her thoughts.
I do. I want to hear your thoughts on it when you do see it.
Yeah.
But I can't believe you haven't seen it. Not for so much the reasons of just it's like one of those movies, but the fact that it takes place in Miami.
And you know what? I think it's part of being desensitized to that, because once you've been in Florida and you've been in Miami, there's only so many Miami gangster movies or television shows that you're going to watch.
Exactly.
And so you're kind of like, I want to watch something different.
I understand.
You know, this is different. But Scarface is just referenced so much in pop culture and other like modern gangster movies, even I think in New Jack City. They reference Scarface. So that's one of those films where it's like it has such a huge place in pop culture and a huge place in hip hop culture and urban culture that even if you haven't seen it, you know of its importance. So that's when I got to sit down.
You feel like you've seen it through osmosis.
Yeah, I brought that up. I brought that point up in our discussion. I don't know if it made the final cut yet. I haven't got to watch the whole thing.
I cut out everything that you.
I figured you did. You hate me.
I mean, I just let it ride, man. It was so good.
You're like my Bride of Frankenstein. She hated me.
I really want to know what Lorena, because it's over the top. It's opulent. It's excess.
Yeah.
It's the 80s. It's just glorious. It's
I think different. It's very operatic. It's very much like a play. Mm-hmm. And it's very well, like very over the top. Like all the performances are pretty much over the top.
Oh, she said she's going to watch it this weekend.
Yeah,
okay.
Awesome.
Watch it this weekend.
Well, then we got to definitely have a discussion with you about that because I got to hear what you got to say about it.
Sounds good.
Definitely.
I mean, like, I'm almost want to get you on the show. And like,
I know. That's what I'm starting to think here, actually, Paulie.
Yeah, like either.
Well, this actually kind of ties into the thing is with the discovering Bond. When we're not doing the Bond movie, it's going to be discovering whatever. And
I have some very strong ideas for movies to go in.
We've
there
already been talking about it,
but well, we can talk with that.
We don't want to talk too much on it right now.
But we'll talk afterwards. I have some. Last time you were on, Lorena, you gave me some ideas. So
that's exactly what I said this weekend. Ram Bam about this week on the review. I said it's like a Shakespearean tragedy. It really is.
It's like it's over the top. It's one of those where it's just the idea of it sucks you in, but again, being in Florida, being around Miami, it's kind of like, I want to see something different.
It's got a cast.
No, Victius. Actually, I have seen Goodfellas several times.
Oh,
I saw that when it came out in the movies. Oh yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah. And also, I have to point out that Festman 93 says discovering Star Trek Discovery.
Nobody wants to do that.
We actually did that with Mr. H reviews.
And
that was amazing.
Children.
Oh God, that would have been good.
You gotta watch that video.
You have to go see
that video.
You have to go see that video. Yeah, we exposed him to Star Trek Discovery Season 3 without having seen the first two.
We're lucky he still talks to us.
Yeah. That was hilarious.
Like,
I'm really happy with the editing of that video.
The whole thing. He's like, why would you do this to me? It's like torture. And we're like, yeah, no, we checked. It's not against the Geneva Convention. And Brian Barth, yes, I have seen the original Scarface. Yes.
Yep. Howard Hawks.
I do bring it up in our review. It's funny, though, that my biggest complaints about the new film are basically one of the storylines that's carried, one of the few and only storylines that's carried over from the original, oddly enough. But yeah.
There you go. And then let's move on a little bit. Mr. Buttcrack Media sent us a poopy super sticker, so thank you so much for that.
That's a pooper sticker.
And STR Red Wolf says, in reference to Cobra Kai, yeah, but does it have kung fu in it? Because
Hells yeah.
No, it has karate.
So yeah, it does. It does. It does have loads of martial arts, and some of that stuff in the previous Karate Kid movies wasn't karate, but yeah, there was some heavy Taekwondo and Korean influence in there. But yeah, loads of various martial arts, especially karate. And then Marigu Ann has a good question. Sorta off topic, though seeing Gaiman mock fans for not liking race swaps in the Netflix show. More case for staying indie/underground as a creator. So yeah, the question appears to be like since Gaiman was unhappy with the response to the latest casting announcements of the Sandman, would he have been better off staying, or should creators in general stay indie rather than go to mainstream? Yeah, well, to which I'll say that just.
Seems like he fit right in with modern
do both, but the only thing that I kind of like object to, or the biggest thing that I object to with like the Sandman thing, is that Neil Gaiman created Sandman in the late 80s and early 90s when he was in his late 20s and early 30s. Now, today, it's an old man at the end of his career that is reimagining the work from when he was young as if he would have done it today. And I don't think that's a very good way of doing it at all, because it's an expression of who he was back then when he was young versus who he is right now. And we've seen this before. You had like George Lucas suddenly deciding, oh my God, what was I thinking? Having Han shoot first, that makes him look like a villain. Although, of course, that was the defining part of his character. But then suddenly he decided that, no, have to shoot at the same time. Or Greedo even has to shoot first. So he's more sympathetic. Someone think of the children. And again, Steven Spielberg had the exact same thing in E.T., like, oh my God, like they're using guns. I have to put in walkie-talkies.
Yeah, but he came to his senses pretty goddamn quick, though.
Yeah, he did.
That's why I say in that South Park episode, Free Hat, they should have swapped George Lucas and Spielberg's roles, because that's really what it was in real life. It was Lucas pushing Spielberg to do that shit, not the other way around.
Yeah, probably. But anyway, point is that when one has done some kind of work, it's probably best to leave that alone. And same thing with this adaptation of Sandman. I think that Neil Gaiman, let him do his indie comics and also let him go mainstream, but maybe not of the same things. Let his indie underground work remain underground work, and then create new mass marketing for mass consumption and find the balance there. What's happening is that now he's trying to reimagine something that was underground for mass consumption in the highly politicized 2021. And that, of course, is a conflict that's gonna not be pretty.
Yeah, and to support my argument with the whole Spielberg George Lucas thing, and I know that's off topic, but I think if the whole ET thing would have went without a hitch, guaranteed well, if Spielberg was the one who was hot on that idea, Jaws would have been next. I guarantee you he would have redone the shark if that would have worked out.
Oh yeah, for sure, and history would have been worse off for
exactly. It. So anyway, that's just my point on that. It was a stupid point, but
it was a point nonetheless.
Yes. No, but to say about Star Wars, to actually bring that up, yeah, that whole scene with Han shooting first, to me, that was iconic.
Or just Han shooting, period. Yeah, like and again, that was George's. It had nothing to do with I wanted to do it a different way to begin with. And I know we're really retreading old fucking ground here, but no, it had to do with everything with Lucas seeing things as an old man, just like Andre just said, compared to when he was a young man and he felt like Han was coming off too cold blooded. It's like, no, you need
that was what we liked. It's like for me and some of my friends and everything, when we found out that scene got changed, we were like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. It's like Han looks like a punk now. Come on. What? No.
It plays all into who his character is. And by the end there, when he's loading up, that stuff, and she's like, all you care about is yourself, basically. And he's like, yeah, fucking, why should I risk my ass for this fucking shit? That's Han Solo, he's like, I'm in it for me, and that's it.
Yeah, that bounty hunter we met on Ord Mantell changed my mind.
It's like, shit, I got to worry about my own ass.
I'm still waiting for that Battle of Tanab.
Somebody like Han's only going to get away for so long if you're the only one who shoots. That's my point. You can't just sit there and wait for somebody to take a first shot and hope you can duck your head that fast every goddamn time. Trust me.
No, not with a price on his head. No way.
No, and that's why I hate the CGI Jabba scene, because that scene is totally out of place because of that now. And all of that crap. It just, anyway, don't get me down that road. It ruined it.
Indeed, but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how Sandman is going to play out when it does come out. I don't know how excited or how familiar any of you even are with that comic, but
I'm not.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a laser.
Oh yeah, and with that, I do believe that we are fully caught up. No, actually, we are not. We have one here. Sean the Movie Man 71 said Scarface reboot starring Freddie Prinze Jr. Yeah, all right.
Come on, dog. Let's see it, dog. Actually, they are remaking. They are remaking
Sean,
Scarface.
We like
I hope
you. Stop.
Wait, what?
They are remaking.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Now it's going to be. Now it's just going to be.
Jordan.
Yeah, black perspective. Yeah.
I thought that was New Jack City. Okay.
I know it was. Like that's my point. Like we haven't.
Okay, thank you.
They even did a female one too. What were the female thieves?
Oh, Set It Off.
That was a great film.
That movie was amazing. Oh my gosh.
I mean,
who would have thought about a movie about female bank robbers? That movie was amazing. I think was that Antoine Fuqua's first.
I think so.
Or was it Gary Gray? I forget.
And they quote Scarface in it.
Yes.
Yeah. Now you got me second guessing now.
And they're now they're doing which they should is like all the old African American gangsters from the 20s and stuff like that. They're doing those stories. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was F. Gary Gray.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I keep
Queen Latifah was in that one. Yep.
Yes.
Jada Pinkett when Jada Pinkett looked like Jada Pinkett.
Mm-hmm.
She was cute.
Yeah, that movie was. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I remember that had a pretty good soundtrack too.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
And Project Cambrian, that's something I want to get on to. I just don't know everything about it yet. That's why I didn't jump on that with the Tim Miller subject. I'm not totally up to speed from where we were at before because we had heard some things about it. And I don't know what's all going on with heavy metal right now. It's kind of strange. I got to talk to Andre about that too. So,
yeah. We'll get back to that when we have more information that we can share about it, which we don't have much of in this moment.
That's a different kind of heavy metal, Paulie. That's Spinal Tap.
I know, man.
Heavy
duty, heavy duty rock and roll.
I still need to see that
in my soul.
Oh my gosh.
I've only seen the Norwegian remake.
Shark Sandwich only has
There's a Norwegian remake of Spinal Tap?
A 2-word review. Shit sandwich.
Shit sandwich. Yes.
Oh.
You can't print that. Where did they say
Where is
that?
That's not for real. That's not for real.
Have
you seen this in Spinal Tap?
No, Andre has not.
I have not.
Lorena hasn't either? Holy shit.
You would love it. It's your...
Okay, that's one thirsty thing.
11,
seeing the original Spinal Tap and then the Norwegian remake of it.
Seasons also to 11.
Yeah, and there's 2 more Norwegian remakes, which are actually pretty damn awesome. One is the Norwegian remake of The Fast and the Furious, which is fantastic.
Okay.
And it's the Norwegian remake of Kill Bill.
This T-shirt is an exact of my inner workings of my skeleton. Yeah, but your skeleton isn't green. Yes, but it is.
But you see this right here. This is green. That's your veins. Oh,
yeah, your blood is actually blue.
Well.
Have you seen the deleted scenes from that, Paulie? My God, the deleted scenes are as good as the fucking movie. Like, there's this whole
These guys are such idiots, but the biggest idiots were the American audiences letting out. So it was Christopher Guest, the guy who plays Squiggy, Michael McKean.
Mm-hmm.
They created a faux heavy metal band from the UK.
Harry Shearer, who did a bunch of voices for The Simpsons, Saturday Night Live,
and so they toured.
Well, actually, all three of them were on SNL, but yeah.
Yeah, and they toured the States, and Rob Reiner filmed them.
Mm-hmm.
This is like early '80s. Rob Reiner films them as a documentary, so the audiences are real, but they're a fake band.
They're fake. Yeah, I mean, they set up some of the stuff, but they've got a ton of cameos, ton of improv. It's
you dig it.
Have you seen stuff like Best in Show or
yes?
Okay, it's Spinal Tap is the first one. Okay, like they're all like connected. They all have like
same
the
actors company.
Okay. I love Best in Show.
And then when they did Mighty Wind, they got Spinal Tap back together, but as a as a folk group instead. That's the same players, but they're in a different band. It's
the last one they did was For Your Consideration.
Yeah, For Your Consideration, but that's more of a straightforward movie in a way.
It's still a little behind the scenes.
It is a little bit, but it's a little bit more straightforward. Yeah.
Is my camera fuzzy?
No, it's fixed now.
We're fixed now. Waiting for Helpman is the other one too. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's pretty fine.
But Spinal Tap's great. But yeah, the deleted scenes are even hilarious for Spinal Tap. There's like 40 some minutes of deleted scenes that are,
and then the lyrics to their songs, are just so juvenile. They have a song called Big Bottom. The sweeter the cushion, the better the pushing. So have I read.
Everybody loves Stonehenge.
The deeper the waistband, the quicker the quicksand. That's what I said. Oh my God, I can keep going.
Let's put it this way. The movie was so good that real bands thought they were ripping off shit that happened to them. And they're like, no.
Shit.
We're flower people. Oh, Jesus. Listen. And they're a band like... you see they're chronological, so like they have flashbacks of the band from the 60s.
Yeah, the first 30 minutes of the movie is kind of set up a lot like the Complete Beatles or the Beatles anthology kind of a thing, because you kind of get a little bit of a history, and then it just kind of leads into this, like this rockumentary. Yeah, Natasha's right. Spinal Tap is obligatory. It just is.
Okay.
And the other joke, the other funny joke that goes along with, not to spoil too much, is they keep going through drummers. And it's not that the drummers leave.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are we going to play Stonehenge tomorrow?
No, we're not fucking doing Stonehenge. No, like each one of their drummers dies in a strange, bizarre death.
Well, you can't really dust from vomit.
Yeah, one of them died on vomiting from vomit, but it wasn't his vomit. Died from choking on vomit.
Oh man,
you got to see the movie.
Okay, that'll have to go on the list after I see Scarface.
But it's just we talk about it. It's just hilarious. And like
it's one of those movies that in high school and in college we just all quote it.
That's beautiful. What is that? It's in D minor, which is the saddest of all keys. Yeah, what's it called? Lick My Love Pump.
It's like and then it's like, oh, we get to work on those projects we never got to. Remember
like the musical,
the Ripper, the musical,
Jack the Ripple, Saucy Jack.
You're naughty one, Saucy Jack.
No, we're not going to do an improv jazz session in front of a
Spinal Tap mock.
Okay,
we need to stop. Sorry,
okay. Okay. After I watch Scarface, then I'll watch this at Spinal Tap.
I can't believe they got the puppet show above us.
I mean, the chat is going off on this. They're going off on this. Everyone has seen Spinal Tap.
Cultural phenomenon. Okay, yeah, I know. I've heard it. I've heard it mentioned. I have not sat down and actually watched.
Well, the soundtrack is amazing.
Rob Reiner's name was Marty DeBurgi.
Marty DeBurgi.
Marty the Bergie?
DeBergie.
Like the most ridiculous names they have. David St. Hubbins.
You forgot one of the better songs, Sex Farm.
Sex Farm Woman.
That's
and then they did music videos.
Their music is so good that people actually thought they were a real band. They ended up doing like 2 more albums.
Wait, Sean the Movie Man 71, the Muppets do Spinal Tap on Disney Plus.
What?
Ooh, what?
I gotta see that.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm probably gonna check that out.
And also, Cartoon Man 154 says, check out the Ruttles.
The
Eric
Ruttles
Idle's
are very
game
good as
principle.
well.
Yeah.
Yes, very good.
Ruttles.
Especially if you're a Beatles fan and a Monty Python
Yeah, that's
fan.
more.
Check out the Ruttles, definitely.
Okay, I'm a Monty Python fan.
Well, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Metallica Black album, where it's just the black cover.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where they got it from, with Spinal Tap, because
It's a joke. I mean,
yeah,
it's like a Scarface. It's
Yeah.
like,
their album cover was so bad that the company put it out with a black cover. So like, this is so
what's
black.
wrong
It's like,
with what's wrong with being sexy?
not sexy, sexist.
Oh,
And then, like, it's like, this is so black. It's like, how much more black could this
Well,
be?
how is it sexist?
None more black.
You have a woman on all fours, and you're shoving a glove in her mouth, forcing her to smell it. Smell the glove. Yeah.
It'd be different if it was the man. Oh,
Oh, there's such a fine line between clever
and stupidity. Yes.
God, it sounds
Oh,
like Monty
We're
Python.
pissing I know.
It does have that kind of a thing because they're doing the British thing because they're a British
Yeah.
band.
No,
but
you'd love it though.
yeah, it's
Lorena would dig that
freaking
humor.
I love Britcoms. Holy crap, I do. So
Because you know what? Yeah. All right.
yeah, I'm gonna
and of course, you know, you got the solos are great. We got to get out of here, guys.
Sorry, Andre.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, Andre.
Yeah, I got to help Mrs. Slant load up the car. She's
Yes.
going away for the weekend. This is me and the dogs this week. Anyone stream this weekend, fellas? What up, dogs?
Let's
all
do a
silent.
double check
Yeah.
and see if we haven't missed any more super
Yeah, double
chats.
check on the super chat.
We got them all. So with that, we are fully caught up. So on that note, I'd again like to thank Edward Lauder, our main guest of today, for coming in to join us. Go check out Small Screen. Links are in the description. And also thanks to Polly and Lorena for coming and joining us, just as he had to leave. So that's perfect. Polly, everyone of course should go and check out the Scarface review that's over on Latino Slants, but we have more cool things coming in conjunction with Latino Slant and Midnight Espanol, don't we?
Yes. 2 things. We will have a interview in Spanish with Eduardo Fajardo on Midnight's Edge Espanol, musician, and his musical performance. An original song just for us that'll be released tomorrow on Midnight's Edge Espanol. And then in 2 weeks, June 10th, it's been announced. I put it on Twitter and all that good stuff. A reunion panel here on the big channel, Midnight's Edge, with Edward James Olmos and Lou Diamond Phillips. Stand and Deliver.
Wow. Okay, I can't miss that.
No,
I cannot miss that.
Oh, you can't. No one can miss that.
It's,
So that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
June
if we
10th.
could just June 10th. If you guys aren't on my Twitter, I announce a lot of our Midnight's Edge Espanol stuff. So hit me up on Twitter, guys.
I think we're supposed to have some other special guests as well along with that, but those
are the 2 biggies.
We'll share that. We'll share that later.
I know.
To the day itself, but we have the two huge ones, and those we can share off the bat.
And it's not on Midnight's Edge Espanol. It's going to be on the big channel here. You know, and it's
So that will be really cool. And then Stephen Otten wonders, are we still doing a member stream Saturday? Yes, we are.
Yes.
We are doing a member stream. So we're gonna set that up now real soon and notify all members and Patreons that there will be a members only exclusive stream tomorrow. I think it's probably going to be around the same time as the morning show. It's
like an hour later,
on.
I think is what we're planning.
Yeah,
on.
maybe an hour later. Since
and
Saturday.
So do tune in for that if you're a member, because we're going to do our best to have some members come on and talk and all that kind of stuff. So please be here to talk with us.
So that should be really cool. So absolutely go and check that out. And Lorena, where can people find you? What do you want to promote?
Well, you can find me, of course, on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. And of course, you can find me here on YouTube. As for what to promote, Sunday at 8 p.m. is my Welcome to Florida stream, where we talk all things Florida from the state that my mother's side of the family has lived in since 1565. So you get a little history, you get a little theme park stuff. Lots of fun, of course, going on there. Of course, Monday night, you can find me on Toxic Femininity at 9 p.m. here on Midnight's Edge. And on Tuesday, the After School Special show at 5 p.m. Eastern on my channel. We're having a collect as you are type of show. So whether you're just starting collecting or you have a huge collection of whatever, just for fans to get together to talk, show, the stuff that they have to collect and get pointers, whether it's comics, whether it's figures, whether anything. So just a cool get together then.
All right, very cool. And with that, I believe that Bertrand Kurt Russell has what's next in store for us right there, don't you? With some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, no fucks given.